easily the platform with the most customization options.
That was
Easily.
actually somewhat sarcastic, but I have multiple M4s myself, and I do totally understand the attractability of the aftermarket
Yeah, like
size of it.
Alright, I'm just trying to figure out my camera here. Alright, let me see.
Okay, so we got Zacho and Magpul joined.
Sweet.
We're off to a good start.
Okay.
Yes. One mag down, 7 more to go. The joys of owning gas blowback.
Just dodged that bullet. I
Well,
traded a guy in M16 for a WE MSK.
I don't know about the MSK, but I'm really loving the. Oh, actually, before I say I'm loving the PDW, my nozzle blew up middle of a game. Quite literally, it's supposed to have a piece that connects to this rear one, like so, but it's missing fairly big chunk.
Lovely.
Blew up in the middle of the game. Thankfully, this is my modified one for that AirSeal mod I was trying out to improve consistency. Never got around to actually checking the FPS consistency at the field because I had to get my gun back up and running. But yeah, thankfully, it only blew up the front portion, and I was still able to salvage the unmodified back portion of the nozzle. But then I couldn't find a pin punch to knock out the pin that holds the nozzle return spring in the bolt. And I was literally banging on it with a small flathead screwdriver, which there's 2 portions to one of these pins on a WE gas blowback. One side is flat with the knurling, so it sits in there. The other side's pointed. And all I had was a small flathead screwdriver to hit the pointed side. And I sat there for about 15 minutes before I finally just started wailing on that sucker, and it popped out. I was like, yes. Because my M4, I put a new end pass in it. And for some reason, well, an entirely new nozzle assembly and an end pass. And now it's getting like 3 shots shooting proper FPS, and then I get 3 or 4 shots shooting 100 to 150. Then it goes back.
Lovely.
And I'm just
gloriously consistent, basically.
Alrighty, guys, I gotta drop out of the car really quick, reset all the drivers on my webcam because of Windows. Alright, I'll be back.
Alright.
So, actually, speaking about formalities, do we actually have discussion topics for the stream, or are we just kind of free-for-alling this thing?
I was just going to wing it. I mean, you know the style of these. We've never had discussion topics in the past. Why would we now?
I asked questions last time, so...
Yeah, I say, I mean,
Again.
we'll just start talking, and if anyone joins in, if when we start streaming, if someone could post a link to the
it's already up.
thread.
You want me
The
to
stream?
post yeah, it's already been up since I joined.
Okay. So, if
Let
someone
me-
could post that too.
I'll post the link then.
Alright.
Yeah, it says somebody's in there, but I don't know who it is.
Alright, once Save the Game gets back in, then we'll probably do the proper kickoff since it seems everyone's in. Yeah, Wingman's not going to be able to join us this week. He sent me a message via Skype a few hours ago saying that he's unable to.
Probably won't be on too terribly late either. Had some weird night sleeps the last couple nights, so I'm going to try and head in early.
Oh, so another thing I recently found out about WE Mags, there's on the top here, I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but see that little black brownish square in between like the magazine follower and the gas router
Yeah.
area? That's a press fitting. It leaks. It backs out, and the only way that I've been able to solve it is I just take my largest pin punch and give it a good whack. And that's one of the things that kind of pisses me off the most about these magazines is actually like, why do they have that? Because it's a press fitting and it's never going to be fixed if it keeps backing out like that.
Okay, links posted.
All right.
If you do watch the Twitch channel at the same time, make sure your microphone's not relaying the same stuff over and over. There's going to be echoes throughout the channel.
Okay.
So what I usually do is I turn off the Twitch channel and I just look at the views and see if there's messages. Supposedly there's somebody there right now. I don't know who is, but
Not sure if it's
someone.
One of us.
Yeah, it could be. Possibly. Could be myself, but usually when I join it says 0 viewers, so I think someone's in there.
It's so funny when we did this last week and it was like, oh, 3 viewers. Yeah. Oh wait, they're all us. Then we got our first question.
Actually, there was
like,
8 viewers when I checked it. Up to 8 last time. So if 3 of them were us, then that meant there were 5 other people.
Going viral.
well, the day after
Gone viral.
when I posted a link to the thread with the Twitch stream on it, and there was like 140 views, and I'm just sitting there thinking, who's 140 people watched us. I'm not sure if that's sad or amazing.
What one man
So
watched this 140 times?
Yeah. Did you post a direct link to the old video? Is that what you did?
Yeah, on the thread on Airsoft Society.
Okay, so somebody gave it to you. I didn't know if somebody gave it to you or not.
No, I just looked it up on Twitch. I searched Airsoft, and ours was the only video.
Really? You could find it like that? Huh.
Yeah. I just, it was like search streams or something, and I didn't have any filters on the search engine. And I just did Airsoft.
See, a good thing
I
about
found
that
it.
is we might get people when they search Airsoft.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's how we got at least 5 people last time, but I don't really know for certain.
Yeah. I have a leaky magazine, and it's making this really annoying kind of fart sound. Or like, you know when a
Sure it's not
cricket...
you?
You know when a katydid just sits there and makes that one monotone kind of sound? That's what it's doing, except at a slower, lower volume. And it's a WE magazine. It's a WE magazine. It's a WE magazine. It's a WE magazine. These are the moments that I question myself. Why do I run gas guns?
Wait a minute, doesn't WE stand for win every time?
Yes, that's exactly what it means.
Yeah.
Stands for work every time, actually.
Yeah. Wreck everything.
Everything.
That's- Yes. Although, unfortunately, while it is a great marketing slogan, they're really referring to themselves.
So I have a potential customer build coming in. It's an M16, and this guy has reportedly burned out 3 motors.
Yum.
Did he plug a 6-cell into it by any chance?
No, that's just you.
Oh, just me? Okay.
Yeah, you're
I
on
would
that.
think it's the motor plate. There's a short in the motor plate somewhere, and that's creating it every time.
Yeah, he
That's what I
also
would
set the
think.
gun on fire, though, so
On
I'm led
purpose?
to believe there's something on too. No, not on purpose.
Well, if it starts on fire, that's usually because there's a short, and the short can't get
Yeah.
removed, and then it just starts on fire.
no idea. I haven't even seen the thing yet. We've just discussed what's wrong with it, and
He didn't
should
say
be
where
dropping it off tomorrow.
it started a fire?
No, just very general. It just caught ablaze.
Huh. I've seen
So
it. I've
we're
seen
gonna
the
see
pistol
what
grip
this next-
caught ablaze before. I've also seen the inside of where the battery goes caught ablaze before. You might want to ask him if he used the same battery in all 3 motors. But I would suppose, I mean, I've seen miniguns that, especially some of the old G&G ones, they had the short at the motor plate. Motor plate, if the motor keeps turning, it would scratch the motor plate, and the paint would come off, and then it would be metal touching metal, and you'd have a short from both sides, negative and positive. Kind of the reason why I would scratch it myself and put liquid electrical tape down there, or any kind of
that makes
molding,
sense.
something around it to make that not happen anymore, or put tape in the pistol grip so the motor can't really move at all, so it can't damage the motor plate anymore.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the motor plate is
I mean,
actually
I just have to be very
sometimes that motor plate actually touches the motor badly in the first place, gives contact to both sides, and so you have to shave it down with a Dremel or whatever you have to do.
Yeah. As far as like branding and what's actually in there, I have very little to go off of. Just have a picture of it. But I do know that he's burned up a JG Blue, a 170 Devil Jet, and something else.
Okay, I can understand the Devil Jet, because the Devil Jet, yeah, that thing will get hot regardless. If there's a short, it's going to go real fast. I don't know about JG Blue, though. That's interesting.
He was going to have me look at the Devil Jet as well, because apparently it was running fine, and then over the course of around 3,000 rounds, it just got really, really slow and just stopped working.
Yeah, that sounds like you're shorting the motor out.
Yeah. So I have a feeling it's a little bit deeper than just unlucky motors. I'll just have to look at it and see what's there.
Yeah, generally what happens is sometimes it's really hard to find a short, and so you have to follow each wire exactly and then look at anything that touches metal. Yeah, so the motor plate can touch, almost, there's so much stuff. It could be in the handguard, who knows where it could be. It could be back in the gearbox. But mostly I would think it would be in the motor grip. I've seen a lot in the motor grip.
I mean, I'm guessing it's going to be confined to the motor grip area because of the consistent motor burnout.
Yeah, that would
But,
make more sense.
It could be anywhere. I had a funky one time out of an MP5. It was a version 2, obviously, trigger contact set, and the back plate for the manual safety on the selector plate was bent out ever so slightly. And in doing that, the trigger did nothing, but slapping the receiver made the gun fire.
Yeah, I've seen that before too.
That was the weirdest thing ever. It took me forever to find that little piece, but it was charred and singed. It was like, oh, wait, that's probably it.
There's also a possibility that the motor itself could be the short. I've seen some of the motors. I even posted links a long time ago on when the new SHS motors came out, how they're shorting out in the bottom. You open them up and you could see the metal was touching from one side to the other. So it's very possible even the motor itself could be doing that.
Yeah.
2 magazines down.
Oh, goody. I'm looking.
Infidel, how you liking those new lipos? Infidel, how you liking those lipos?
I think there's audio problems on his end.
Yeah, I'm guessing. Looks like he's muted.
He might have turned it off for a moment.
Yeah, he might be doing some dremeling or something. Me and him got the same lipos, which is why I'm asking.
Oh, speaking of lipos, I've finally got one of my lipos starting to puff up really bad.
Mhm.
Like normally, out of these Tenergies that I have, I'm used to seeing a little bit of puffing, like ever so slight, within a few thousand rounds, and then it just kind of stays there, just a little bit
Yeah.
puffy, but nothing serious.
Yeah.
Like, but this one though is getting to the point where it's starting to get tight and it's starting to balloon. I've checked it on my Turnigy smart charger, and the resistance per cell is sitting at 6 ohms each. The cell balance, one was 3.39, the other one was 3.4.
Yeah.
Is that it? Yeah, it's like looking at it, resistance and voltage look just fine.
Yeah, looks good.
And it was like, I'm not sure it was.
Doesn't the
same.
puffiness start when the two pieces of the cells start to touch somewhere? Like a little
I
bit
don't
of
know.
the positive and negative start to touch somewhere, and then they start to expand. But if they stop touching, then they stop expanding.
I don't know. I've heard only a couple ways. I think one of it was as the battery degrades, and if it's a low quality one, it degrades faster. It can actually like release a gas or something inside the cell, and on sealed cells, like the way they should be, it traps the gas and makes them puff. And the other one is when it's damaged. Yeah, the positive and negative.
I think I've heard something like that too.
My volume cut out for the last little bit, so I'm not sure if anything was addressed towards me or not. But I just
Yeah, there was a question for you. I think it was from Justin.
Yeah,
Okay.
how are you liking those lipos? I know you and I both got the same stick lipos.
Oh yeah, they're very nice. They fit in the MP5K very well.
I'm quite impressed by them. They stick out the end of the buffer tube a little bit, so you can't fully detract it. But for their size, they are quite powerful.
What batteries are you talking about?
Some Turnigy's, these ones, 1300 mAh, 25 to 50 C discharge. They're just little stick ones. I needed one for my Mark 18 build. Ooh, speak which.
Measurement, they're almost the same as your average NIMH tube. So they can fit in really tight
You're gonna
spots.
hate this because you want me to put this on the scar that I have, but I got a short dodge.
Yeah, it's just pure ignorance putting that scope on that gun and not the
Dude,
scar.
are you kidding me? This thing is beautiful with the short dot.
No, it would look so much
Yeah.
better with the scar.
Scars.
No,
Scars
dude.
all
I
over.
put it on the scar. It looks way better on this Mark 18.
Yeah.
And it's a Scar H, no less.
Yeah.
It needs to go on the Scar H.
It really does. I have
You know
decided.
what? I'll put it on the scar H right now for you guys.
Yes.
1 second.
Yeah, when I get the Tanaka M700 in, that's going to be receiving the L-can.
Is there any background noise on my mic?
I heard something. Well, I'm sitting here working with files.
I don't hear anything on yours, Zaka.
Okay, cool. Alright, so I'm pulling out a bunch of pistons.
Good lord.
It's got one of my pistons in here that I made a long time ago, never really tested.
I meant to ask you what became of that, because that's been a while now.
Yeah, dude. It's right here. It's never been tested. It seemed to fit the gearbox perfectly. I put it in there, tested it with my hand, and I didn't see any problem with not being able to run it.
Are you guys happy with this now?
Much happier.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks good, obviously. But it just doesn't have the same appeal to me.
Of course, because you put a Mark 18 on it. No, Mark 17. I don't know what Mark. Damn it!
So here she
I'm
is.
just gonna stop talking now.
Use your words. Use your words.
You did that on Shapeways, right?
Yeah.
Huh?
How
Well-
long has that been now? It's been over a year.
Sorry, my camera's not the best quality. The dark edges, it means it was put in the gearbox, but it wasn't used, I don't think, if I remember. But you can see the thing fits in there perfectly.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me, I probably made 8 of these, different little sizes every time. Probably about the same number of metal ones. This is a metal made one from Shapeways too. I don't know how well this would run. I mean, it seems like if I really push hard, I could bend this, but you have to push really hard to try to bend it. So I don't know. In my opinion, you know, if we're going to be able to run plastic racks and we can run them with M140s, M150s pretty well, then why wouldn't this work? Maybe this has brittleness. I don't know. That's the only possibility I could think of. But
Yeah.
it's already missing the second tooth. The rack has all the teeth connected. You can see right there. So there's some reinforcement. The back tooth is heavily thicker. That was the part that usually where you'd have damage on pistons. So I just made the back tooth thicker than the front, the other ones. Also, this piston, what's different about this is the back is thicker on it, kind of, so you can see a difference here. Here's another piston I had that you can see an indentation on the last tooth. Sorry, my camera's kind of terrible. Maybe if I put some light on it.
You talking about the pickup?
Yeah, see how you can see a little bit of indentation
Oh yeah.
from like being hard hit. This one you can see that it's I guess, okay, see how the back is really thick? So the difference with this piston is that it has a further back. Let me see if I can grab another metal one to show you an example. So here's 2 differences right here. So you can see mine. You can see how much more reinforcement there is in the plastic. And then here there's a lot less. See how, like, this has to be epoxied for sure, and then the back could blow out still. So your rack would go flying. You can see here this is almost twice as thick on my piston. So this piston has a little bit more length in the back, and you have to short stroke, I think, at least 2 teeth. But it's more reliable from being able to bust out the back. That was kind of the design on this piston.
Wasn't it? Oh gosh, I think it had. What does a normal piston have, teeth-wise? Isn't it like?
How many teeth?
Yeah, on an average.
Gosh, I don't remember. 1, 2,
Because I remember
3,
yours
4,
being
5,
too short.
6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I wanted to say it was 16, and that would make sense if I said 2-stroke. I think it is 16. So this is 14.
Yeah.
That's what it looks
Because
like.
I remember you put the 3D model up on a thread at some point, and tooth counting, it was short, and I guess that's why I didn't realize that the front was thicker at the time.
No, it's the back is thicker.
The back, the front,
Yeah, you'll say, oh, it's all the same, right?
yeah, it's all the same.
You can also notice
It's
that
funny how.
there's.
It's funny how.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Dadgummit,
So
people.
it's funny how we're all techs. A lot of us has done a lot of builds, and yet, how many teeth does a piston have?
I could have remembered 16. I was about to say that right off the bat. And so, I mean, that's going off memory that I've been teching for over a year. Doesn't look like
That's the thing with
anybody's still
SH
joined.
piston. They would be great if the front was reinforced.
You
or
mean the back?
Whatever. If it was reinforced more.
Front, back,
Because those
same.
things crack and fracture all the time, but the rack is fine. I mean, if they would just fix that, they'd be great.
Well, you know, you can't really see it in this piston, but it's because I think the plastic they used. If you looked at my 3D design, you'd be surprised. In the spot that would crack normally in the back, I actually put little holes like radius the edges here, so that you'd be less likely to get a crack going back here or here. So it's still, you're putting this in here, and this is exactly touching. Like, it's not adding extra force. So you look at the front here, it's nice and flat. If you put a piston head on here, it's not when it slams, it's not adding extra force to the back of this and making this hit. So this is actually a little bit more finely done. Also, when you put the spring in here, there's no way that the spring can bind or scratch up the edges. So you're not getting flakiness and stuff in the gearbox with this piston. But I'd rather have this piston made in probably a different material than a 3D
Unless
printer.
you use a Mad Bull spring, then it'll flake regardless.
Any coated spring flakes, regardless of what you.
But especially Mad Bull springs.
Another cool thing about this piston is I was trying to think like how to make a general pretty good piston. The front of it already has holes, but one of the holes that was interesting is I made the center hole a little bigger, so I was testing with a bunch of piston heads, make sure they'd fit, and I noticed some wouldn't. So some of these pistons I bought in the past, the piston heads wouldn't fit, and I avoided that with this one. And then on some of the G&G ones, you need a square on the top. They kind of lock the piston head from rotating, so I put an extra hole there on this one. You can see a square right there. And then there's a bunch of little holes everywhere around the piston. It's kind of hard to see. See if I can demonstrate this. So you got the big long ones, and then if you look, there's a bunch of little holes. I mean, it's kind of hard to see from my camera.
I remember
Maybe
the 3D model.
Maybe if I put it up here, kind of show. So you can kind of see through it.
Yeah.
Anyways, I was happy to get this to drop in. I just never really ran it. Kind of makes me wonder, if it would actually be viable. I was also trying to make the thickness of this piston as thick as you could go without getting in trouble with the spring and the gearbox. Because I know some of these other pistons, you look at them and their thinness was terrible. So I was really kind of like, I try to get it as thick as you can and get it to fit in the gearbox at the same time.
Steema looking at you.
Alright, so I know we were going to have a discussion topic for this podcast, just so that we could probably make it a little more useful in terms of information.
We just crap out pistons.
I'm all for that.
Well, yeah, no, this week I was thinking something fairly basic, just to see how well we can do at discussing a topic and staying on topic, and that was our...
Uh-oh.
What?
What? Did his audio just cut out for everyone else?
Yeah,
Yep.
we need to discuss a topic. Oh, there's no topic. Gotta go.
That is
Hangouts doesn't like me.
an amazing example of what happens.
Yeah, we just heard
Hangouts
there's.
doesn't like me using my iPhone as a webcam either, apparently.
You said there's a
We're just
discussion,
discussing
and then
topic.
you just left, and so it looked like there was no discussion. No planned discussion.
No discussion for you.
I gotta go before they figure this out.
Alright guys, you found me. That's right, I'm just sitting here and I'm disconnecting every half hour. Just to fool with you. Anyway, so, I know something simple. Our thoughts and opinions on different systems, primarily found in airsoft guns, like HPA systems like the SMP,
Lovely, something I have
Star.
experience in.
gas blowbacks, AEGs. Not necessarily which system is the best system overall, but just like why we prefer one over the other. I'm sure we all know why none of us really like Polar Stars, because that's
Oh,
what we
come
all
on,
understand.
guys. Come on.
all four, that's why.
Not all of us are speedballers.
But we're still all poor. That's the one thing that unites us here.
I have a
That's
Polar
why
Star
we have
too,
TDI.
just to remind you.
Alright, fair enough.
Okay, but some of us are high schoolers with, no money, so Polar Star.
That would be me. Ironically.
That's why I had to buy your gun off of you. So you had
Exactly.
money.
Exactly. Thank you very much for that, by the way.
I have the money and I could buy a Polar Star, but I mean, frankly, I just don't care to. I mean, it doesn't pique my interest that much. But I absolutely love the idea. It's an absolutely amazing system. I don't really care for gas guns in general.
Well, yeah, I do have to agree with you on that point. As a system itself, it is really amazing. I mean,
It's
you just got
phenomenal.
that little computer, and it's just
Onboard, yeah, onboard computer to control air pressure. It's phenomenal.
So, I mean, whereas I wouldn't buy one, I can absolutely respect what it is. It's a phenomenally great advantage and a step forward in sport, which I like.
Well, I'm actually working on schematics for a HPA VSR10 conversion bolt because now I have access to 3D printers and CNCing machines.
Oh, really?
So, I've been interested in putting, oh, what's it called? It's the one other HPA conversion kit for a bolt-action rifle. It's like this really obscure European bolt.
Manscraft?
Pardon?
Manscraft?
Yeah, it's probably something like that. I don't have the name of it, so I got it
Yeah,
somewhere.
look it up on Airsoft Hyperform. They have the CO2 subsection. Should be the Manscraft CO2 Power Stroke Bolt or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. But the thing I've hated most about using HPA with guns that aren't designed to be HPA is the jack line. And having to tap the mags and still using the air tank, because to me the air tank defeats the purpose of having a standalone rifle system.
Well, actually, there's for guns that take the WE M4 trigger box, someone did make a pretty cool mod that involves routing copper tubing around the trigger box area, so you can run the gun, with the remote line and that, but still use individual magazines, which I thought was pretty cool.
Oh, that's
it's
very
really
clever.
work intensive. It's really work intensive, and I just looked at it. No.
No.
I'll just make a high cap mag, tap it, for HPA, and call it good.
So the system I was working on I got a really small scuba training tank, and it's like 8 inches by 4 inches. It fits probably like 120 rounds of air in it. It's pathetically small. But I'm trying to do a stock kit for the VSR that allows the air tank to just rest in the stock and then run the line internally up through the grip into the bottom of the bolt.
Have you seen the Marui 870 gas reservoirs and thought about...
Yeah. That's sort of what I was basing it on. Having an onboard reservoir on the gun.
Well, the big downfall with having something like that 870 reservoir is if you're talking HPA, that is not nearly enough volume.
Oh, no.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah, it's that. I've seen guys discuss that before, and it's like, that's just, it won't work unless you have a liquid gas, which reading into a lot of the stuff for like the CO2 conversions for gas sniper rifles, which up until about 2 months ago, every Airsoft Sniper forums talked about them really positively, and all of a sudden they made a 180. But it's still, you're using a liquid power source, gas source. So you still get inconsistencies, and a lot of guys actually blow out their regulators because they do something, get a little bit of liquid CO2 in the line, they shoot.
Ooh. And pow.
You've just blew up $100 regulator.
Well, the reason I've got my fascination in HPA is because I'm up in Maine, and I don't know if you've ever tried. I don't know if you guys have ever tried using gas blowbacks in the winter in Maine.
I don't even know why
you
live up there in the winter.
I'm in Cali. There is no such thing as winter.
Exactly, which is why I'm so Okay. I'm in like middle northern Maine. Last winter, lowest temperature recorded was -47.
Yeah, you
Jesus.
shouldn't live there.
It's
Nature-
gorgeous, don't get me wrong, and the fact that I can go out to my backyard and have 300 acres of woodland to play in is just phenomenal. But the reason I've got my fascination with HPA is because all of my gas blowbacks, I fire one round, then it dumps the mag all over my hand. And not only does my hand smell like propane for the rest of the day, but it doesn't work. But with HPA, because it's not a liquid gas, it can run at very, very low temperatures very easily. And that's primarily why I went for a Polar Star, is why I saved up and invested in that, is because it's gas, so it's got that little bit of, I don't know, I've got a thing for gas rifles, but
It's got that tactile feel to it.
exactly. But it also is fully stable and fully powerful, and there's very little consistency depending on temperature.
I'm
And
kind of with Magpul. I think the system is great. I just think that it's got its limitations. One being the tank. I know that I could never run the tank.
yeah, that's the primary reason I don't run my Polar Star now and why I use my KCO2 instead. But thanks to Raven, I finally have enough for a Redline
Buttstock.
airstock. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a game changer for me if I ever convince myself it's worth the $320 setup.
Well, there's also, it's going to add a shitload of weight to the gun, which, honestly,
Yeah.
the difference between my PDW and M4, both fully loaded, is like 1.5 pounds.
Wow.
But I just feel like because I have just a horrendous right shoulder due to the collarbone doesn't move right and it causes a bunch of pinching on my bicep nerve. So I can't do a lot with my shoulder.
Yeah.
And that 1.5 pounds makes a world of difference.
Yeah, I
It's
can
all-
definitely see that.
It's better gas efficiency. Smaller bolt, better gas efficiency.
Which is, I was really cautious about the weight really early on, which is why I completely rebuilt the gun to A, be front heavy, but B, weigh as little as possible. Like, I had one of the really, really, really old Classic Army Colt licensed receivers on it. And that thing not only was pot metal, but it weighed like 1.5 pounds in and of itself. The receiver was horrendous, and so I took off the key mod and I put on SR25 style rail, and I got the entire weight of the rifle from like 9.5 pounds down to 5.2. And it's totally front heavy, and so I'm hoping that the weight of the airstock will actually offset the front heaviness and still give me a balanced gun rather than completely throw me off.
Hey Zach, you might find this interesting. Have my DSG. It's built out of a G&P M4 body. Nothing crazy. 10-to-1 JG Blue M170. And he's not even sitting in his chair. Never mind. Hang on.
Points for effort.
Here's a real question. He's not here. I just found that on the PDW, if I could add just a little shim to the bolt catch, I could get like an extra millimeter of engagement out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And a 0.1 shim is too big. And I just cut my thumb with that 0.1 shim. I can't go a week without cutting myself. I think I have a problem.
Is this all the people we're going to have this week?
Yeah.
Some might file in later, but for now. Hey, so now that you're back, I have another question for you.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Okay.
On my DSG, which is no longer in the MP5K, it got moved over to a version 2, have feeding issues kind of like a small nightmare. It feeds fine on semi and full auto unless the system's been warmed up significantly. It just kind of shower heads the BBs out. If you were 2 feet away, I'd get you with a bunch, but I mean, more than that, not going to happen. So I just took it apart to see if I couldn't nail down where my compression issue was, because they were really, it was so inconsistent. They were hitting each other while going down the barrel. But opening it up now, I've got this wear that's really weird looking on my air nozzle.
Layer? What do you mean by layer?
Wear, not layer.
Oh, wear. Okay. My first thoughts, DSG, air nozzle has to have a lot of push and pull quick. Yeah, that looks like you may be rubbing against your hop up, and if that's true, then that means it's very hard for your air nozzle to get there quickly.
Yeah, and that's grease there, so I know it's rubbing really bad. I mean, that's
well,
just
it's also
wet.
possible that the grease can shoot out and be inside the hop up and then get on the air nozzle. But I would take the air nozzle out, put it in the hop up chamber by itself. Just push it with your hand and see if there's any resistance. If there's too much resistance, yeah, then you have a problem.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me because it's cross-brand hop-up chamber and nozzle, but it'd be rather annoying considering they're...
What about your tap-up spring? How did you cut off any coils?
I believe I pulled 2 coils.
Yeah, I would probably do 4 at least.
Okay.
I don't think 2 does much of anything. And even though doing 4 is, better, the fact is you may want to keep another spring just in case that spring busts, because those tap plate springs, sometimes they're reliable, sometimes they're not. And then on top of that, you gotta check that resistance, because even if you improve the spring, if there's resistance, going into the hop-up chamber, you're still gonna have the same problem. It may improve it a little bit with just the spring adjustment, but not if it has a lot of resistance moving forward. And that's what it sounds like, because in semi-auto, you're going slower than you are in full auto. Once you go in full auto, you're trying to move that air nozzle as quick as possible, and it probably can't return in time.
Well, and even considering it's a 22 TPA on a 10-to-1, I rarely run this thing on 11.1. I'm usually running it off of a PEC 16 little 7.4. It's kind of low speed. It's not low speed like some people consider, but it's definitely not a high-speed one.
And the last thing you can check that I just thought about is the O-ring to the air nozzle. If you put that air nozzle on the cylinder head and it's a tight fit, it won't move very well at all either. It has to be snug but not too tight. That way at least there's air compression, but it can move as quick as it can to the front too.
If it's getting bogged down, then that's not good.
Yeah, that's what this whole problem sounds like. I mean, I've been having similar issues, and I figured out in the past that that air nozzle, sometimes it looks like you have compression issues, but sometimes it's just the air nozzle's not moving fast enough to get to the front. So you have to be aware of that.
Well, and both compression and this issue would gradually fix themselves as things got hotter. So, I mean, it could be deceivingly similar.
What do you mean by things got hotter?
I mean, as the piston cycles more, like on this thing, it was a hot summer day, and in the cold chrono that morning, doing the shower effect, and throughout the day, full auto became more and more reliable as the air got warmer and the gearbox was cycled more. So
it's also possible, you could be putting wear on something, and that's making the resistance is slowly getting wear down.
Yeah, but to have it return and do the same symptom when it's cold.
Well, I'll say this: it is highly possible. You could be correct, but at the same time, you possibly could be incorrect. It could be the fact of I
really have no idea.
There could be slight resistance at times, and there could not be. And you're going back and forth, and you're just relating it to weather, and you're not 100% sure. But at least it's something to consider, though. Is that there's probably some high amount of resistance. Man, we haven't seen anybody, it seems like, in Twitch.
On Twitch?
Yeah. Kind of sad.
We're streaming this on Twitch?
Yeah.
Yep.
Anybody have a link for it? A buddy of mine might want to jump in.
Okay, let me.
view on.
I'll post it in chat again.
Cool. I got a question for gas blowback people out there.
Yep.
I like to consider myself fairly savvy with it, but can anybody find, like, does anybody know the recommended PSI for Airsoft Surgeon slides? Because I was out in 95-degree weather with my high kappa. I was shooting off propane, and the entire blowback unit blew up in the back of the slide and just blew it off towards my face. Like back of the slide just exploded.
What blowback unit were you running?
Marui. Stock Marui.
Okay, that's your issue, because while Maruis can handle propane,
It was the
they
temperature
are
that I was
designed-
worried about.
yeah, they are designed to run. I take it you're running green gas propane in it?
Just propane.
Okay, so yeah, while they can handle propane most days, they are designed for duster gas, which duster gas is like 90 something
Yeah.
psi.
I use
Your
duster gas with my Marozens and such.
Yeah, propane's about 115 psi, and on a
All
warm
right.
day, it can jump up there to about 130. So that's your issue right there.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, if you were working with KJW or
Yeah.
one of the other kind of clone blowback units that were designed to run on propane,
Yeah.
and that happened, that would be kind of concerning.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're saying, how hot was it?
It was like 85, 90.
Oh, that's actually fairly normal. But yeah, if it's a Tokyo Marui, yeah, that would be.
What kind of gun is it
Alright.
again?
That's most likely.
High Kappa 5.1. My little baby.
Oh, okay. I had 2 high kappas. I want to say that my top receivers. Well, they're not called receivers, aren't they? What's the top called? I forget.
Slides.
Slide.
The slide, yeah, those things just crumbled when I used propane. I had to get them in metal, and then I didn't have a problem after that.
Well, I bought it stock Marui, and the slide was fine, and I ran it with propane for a couple months, and then I decided to upgrade to metal because I wanted stainless, and so my mistake, I dropped a garter in there, and that thing had cracks running all through it at the end of like 2 months, and so I bought an Airsoft Surgeon slide, which is nice slide, and just yesterday, thing blew up in my face. I got cuts all over my arms.
Wow.
Absolutely
Like, wait,
shattered. What?
Oh, mine shattered. I thought you were talking more about like when blow up. When I hear people, oh, it blew up. All right, it cracked in a few places and a little.
Oh, no. No, like the
You're-
back of the slide blew off.
My guess would be, some of some of that metal that they use, they just cut it. It could be thin in some areas, and it could be cheap metal too. If it's cheap metal,
But
then
it's Airsoft Surgeon. That's one of the higher end.
Exactly, yeah, which is why I was so surprised when that happened.
well, how long did you use it for before this happened?
Month?
Are you
How
going
many
out
rounds?
every day, every other day?
Probably about 2,000 rounds.
That's nothing.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Exactly. I don't know. So I sent eHobby an email, and hopefully they'll send me a replacement. I'm just gonna call it fault in the manufacturing because Airsoft Surgeon should not just blow up.
Yeah, threaten them with a lawsuit.
Yeah. Severe injuries. I'm suing you for $2 million. Yeah.
Or you could just give me a new
By
slide.
the way, I'm still alive, and I have my hands and feet, and I can see.
Exactly. I don't know.
Send me a
As
new
long
slide,
as
I'll
they send
sign
me,
any legal document you want me to.
I've got a Bino parts for my high kappa that has spare TM blowback units, KJW, so I'm not really worried about that. But I really don't want to invest another $110 in a slide.
If it's just gonna blow up again.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I'm sort of at my wit's end here. I tried Artifact Custom. That is the biggest piece of crap I've ever seen.
Wait, didn't you say you had access to 3D printers? Stuff like that?
Yeah.
You don't have access to a CNC machine by chance?
I do have access to a CNC machine, but I have no experience with the schematics or anything.
You can't do measuring. Do you have an old? What the heck is that called? The top bolt to receiver? I forgot, guys.
Slide?
The slide, yeah. Can you?
You were just a lost cause.
I am a lost cause.
You're a chair softer now. You can't even chair soft properly.
Oh, I'm a total chair softer, but
You are, but I'm
Couldn't-
sorry.
Couldn't you just take that slide, measure it all up at all the angles and everything, put it in SolidWorks, and go CNC print it?
honestly,
You could make
probably.
it. You could make it thicker. You can make it thicker in areas that would not be used to.
Yeah, the CNCing, while I do have access to it, is the guy doesn't like doing it for cheap, and so like a foot by a foot is going to cost me like $40 if I'm testing out concept works. So while I would like to do that, I don't want to waste like $500 testing out different designs to see if it'll fit, because I'm god awful with measuring. So what I'll probably end up doing is I'll probably wait till he gets himself a scanner, and I'll just digitally scan the slide and get full schematics there, and then I can alter that how I need to.
Mm.
I mean, that's what I'm doing with the 3D printing,
That sounds better.
and that works great. Yeah, like I would much rather not have to measure every single angle inside the slide, because it's just a pain. It's got to be so exact, or your blowback unit just will not fit.
Could always pull out the Dremel if you had to.
Speaking of that,
Yeah, that's the other thing. All my tools are failing on me.
Like when in
Speaking
doubt,
of
Dremel crap out.
It sounds like everything's failing on you. Talking about all of your Tokyo Murray gun failing on you, and then all of a sudden your tools are failing on you.
Yeah,
You're getting hurt, your body's breaking
that's pretty
down.
much it. I'm 15. My body's got a long way to break down.
well, no, it's you can heal yourself right now. You're like the Wolverine at 15.
Exactly, yeah.
Once you hit 19, everything goes downhill from there.
Once you hit 18, you start getting back problems all of a sudden. You're like, where did that come from?
That's
I always
because
said
he
it was
spent
leg
the
problems.
previous 4 years crouching over a tech bench because he found
Well,
airsoft.
it also depends on what kind of minimum wage job you acquire.
Lumber mill.
Yeah.
That was a
If you work
funny
at a
answer.
grocery store, you're gonna have back problems.
Okay. I got a summer job, and unfortunately I got let go a couple weeks ago, but it is the best I have felt in a seriously long time. I was doing landscaping and working at a lumber mill, and it just felt so good being outside and using my body to do shit. Like, it was really good. Sorry for the swearing. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
No,
It's
no,
second nature for me.
just look at last week's podcast on Twitch. Yola. I call my hits.
I'm a wildland firefighter in between schooling years, and it's a really fun job. If any of you want to try Department of Natural Resources firefighter in your respective states,
hmm
definitely a really good job. Pays well.
Awesome.
Or pays, so.
I was
I
getting
also-
$11 an hour.
Lucky
The
dog.
thing is, DNR, it kind of sucks, but it's kind of cool. They pay you on salary.
Uh huh.
It's a really weird salary setup. But the advantage is you get a lot of overtime, and when you go overtime, you get time and a half pay, and then if you're dispatched onto a fire, you also get fire pay, which is another $2 an hour. And I mean, my best check this year, this year was kind of a slow year, and on my dispatch that we went on, I got, 90 to 100 hours of overtime on a pay period. I got
Man,
about 2,200 in 2 weeks.
damn.
It's a decent job. It's fun. A lot of fun.
Well, it's actually seeing how much you posted about it when you were getting all the fires up there in Washington. Actually made me legitimately sit down and think, you know what, that might be fun to do for a summer, especially considering California, drought, shitload of fires.
Yeah.
Are you anywhere near those places where they deployed the shade balls?
The what?
The shade balls?
That just sounds like some sort of futuristic alien technology.
For the water or for?
No, it was out on the internet a couple days. I mean, it was like a week ago. Apparently, out there in Cali and the surrounding area, they were covering the water reservoirs with these
Yes.
black, like, bowling ball-sized rubber
Oh,
balls.
yeah, but that's not for the fire. That's because the
No,
water's
that's to conserve
so
water.
dirty. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
got
I saw that. That was kind of cool.
it's got a
Conserve
chemical in
water,
it that
prevent
causes
algae
cancer.
growth.
Nice.
No, it's got a
straight water causes cancer, so
I was reading about it on National Geographic, and it was one of the chemicals that's used to treat the water in California when exposed to sunlight for a long period of time. Transforms into cancer-causing chemicals, and so they put all the black balls on it to limit its exposure to sun.
yeah, evaporation goes down, bacteria growth goes down.
You know what
Yeah.
they should have done?
Wonder who
Yeah.
Wonder how big the rays were for the guy who thought of that.
No, it's just the way everything goes in government. It's someone's friend's uncle
Yeah,
or brother
Yeah,
makes
exactly.
the damn thing, and so he gets the contract. But I'm surprised if it causes cancer in California. There's this stupid law. So
which one?
What,
There's a lot
what
of them.
causes cancer?
Prop 65,
California.
specifically
California?
Prop 65. is
Just
called-
living in California causes cancer.
Well,
Exactly.
Prop 65. If you're in a business that has any sort of item, product that has any sort of trace chemical that has a carcinogen in it, you must put a sign with. I mean, they even specify the font, type, and size as well as the size of the sign in a quote obvious place end quote. And it was actually 3 months ago. My parents have a friend who runs a bakery. I had to run around and gather up a bunch of ingredients they were using, and then take them over down to the Livermore Food Labs for testing.
Oh my
Because-
god.
We're talking like if there is a trace amount of a state recognized carcinogen in one of the ingredients out of everything you sell, you have to have a placard.
That's absurd.
I mean, basically,
And
as well just retrofit everything with a placard straight off the bat and not even deal with it.
Precisely.
I want to say there's actually, if you put one of those signs up there and you didn't have anything that caused cancer, you were in violation of something. Another
You're
law.
always in violation of something,
Couldn't-
even if you do
This is
everything they want.
California.
Couldn't you
Yeah.
put a
run
little
by
sign that
lawyers.
says, I don't know how you get cancer, but anything you eat could give you cancer?
Life
I mean,
is
basically,
cancerous.
everything can give you cancer. It's just you don't hang out by a nuclear facility all day long. You have some common sense. But,
Aw,
good grief.
you're ruining my favorite pastime of
So
diving in
do-
nuclear waste.
Do they have signs at the tanning bed that says, you can
Well,
get
Skin cancer.
sun
Yes.
cancer, skin
No
cancer?
one-
They do. Just a
I
little
should have
sign
figured
out in
that.
the lobby.
You
Well,
can
it's
die if you
actually,
stay here too long.
It's actually, speaking of the radiation part, it's controlled exposure to radiation is not all that bad for you. The people who lived in the suburbs outside of Nagasaki and Hiroshima,
Well,
They
Nagasaki, what the hell do you expect?
they their children who were born after most of the radiation died off because they got exposure to the right level of radiation where it was like just enough to stimulate the immune system
Huh.
where they actually became healthier. And it's a big fad over in Europe, but abandoned uranium mines where it has the natural.
You gotta be kidding me.
That's fucked up.
How stupid are we?
That's why
No,
the
it's-
is in trouble. They're bathing in radiation.
very trace amount of radiation, just this very trace amount that if you go, we're talking like they only go in there for 30 minutes,
That's
and
third-
it just does this little bit of stimulation to your immune system, and it actually does help. It over there in Europe, they also prescribe some people with chronic illnesses visits to those kind of places occasionally because it does actually help. Now, this is very, very low amount of radiation. It's like I want to say the equivalent they get in half an hour of one of those mines is about 14 hours of high altitude airplane flying.
You could probably stand in front of a microwave and get more.
We're going way off topic, guys.
Yeah, really.
Back on the teching, okay? The boys' gearbox is very
Gas,
easy to skim.
gas blowback systems.
Okay, we got somebody. It looks like they joined finally.
On Twitch?
We're going viral.
FX
Viral.
Studios.
Yeah, that's my buddy.
Dang it!
God damn it.
Damn, that sucks.
Sorry to get your hopes up, guys.
Curse you. Oh, okay. Here's a
At least-
story, alright?
At least this is weird.
I recently opened up a bag of sea salt and vinegar chips, right? Okay? Reach into the bag, pull out a chip, and they were original. What the fuck, Frito-Lay? What the fuck?
So much disappointment summed up in that moment
so
right there.
pissed. Oh,
Okay,
God.
I'm gonna change my profile picture because it desperately needs to be changed.
Yeah, it does.
Says we need some advertising.
Some advertising?
Can you get a picture of
Oh, nail polish. Minor. Where's your advertising?
I think your buddy
Alright,
wants
I
to
will be back
advertise
to
for
see if my
us.
profile picture actually changed.
Could someone change their profile pic to The Rock holding a rock or something along those lines?
No.
What's that famous line? What's the rock cooking or something like that?
Oh, I
Can
saw
you
the most hilarious
smell
ad.
what the rock's cooking or something like that?
I don't know, but I found this hilarious ad in a journal magazine, and it was eggs and bacon, but it was Kevin Bacon holding a frying pan of eggs.
Fuck. Oh, God, I hate society.
He also had a shirt with his face next to 2 eggs.
That's why I hate, like, everything about this society. Yeah.
A helpful maintenance tip: if your guns
This is-
get rained on, promptly tear them apart because all your pins will get frozen. Just so you know.
I'm actually up there with getting patches made for I Call My Hits. I may actually try to. My sister knows a website where you could custom order shirts. I might actually get a shirt of the Kevin Bacon face and 2 eggs, so I could have a shirt that's eggs and bacon. And people are concerned, like, I don't have anything to tech on. What will I do during this tech session?
We really need to put more stuff in the tech sessions here. More teching. We need higher quality cameras from people, and people need to do tech sessions at the same time.
I'm pulling apart my DSG right now. If you hear an explosion, it was a spring.
Okay, what kind of spring size is it?
M170.
That's not too
Nothing
bad.
Crazy. No.
What kind of gearbox? Version 2? It's
Yeah.
that.
GMP.
It's that one you're talking about.
Yeah.
And you can put the screwdriver in the back.
Yep. Already done.
Okay, yeah, you should be able to pull that apart, no problem.
Of course, it's all locked together because it got rained on.
It's wrapped.
No, all the shell is like almost stuck together because it got rained on.
Man, I remember I destroyed 2 of my AEGs one time. I was playing out in the rain, had an epic fight, and came home, and I was so tired, I didn't think about opening it up to sweat it out, right? Next day, I opened it up, and they were completely rusted. Both of them.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
They had all the metal, because they were all metal, they were rusted all over. It looked like a red and brown gun. I was like, oh my god, these are destroyed.
There's so much grease on this motor. Ugh. Ew.
Have you ever done one of those distilled water motor cleans? That's disgusting.
I haven't.
Oh, good lord.
I don't really know if it's worth it. I mean, I guess it depends on the motor, maybe?
I mean, if you just want a squeaky clean setup, I guess.
Yeah, but if you're getting a new motor and it's made right, shouldn't it be squeaky clean from the beginning?
Yeah, but just like if you got one that you need to clean up.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. You wanted, you got one that's badly used or something.
Like, if you can remedy a slow or heat issue with a quick cleanup instead of replacing brushes, then, I mean, I guess that's a good thing, right?
We got to go to brushless design.
Well, yeah, there's that, but, I mean,
When I get more money to spend on the 6L, basically I still need that's going to be $300 more at least until I get it running. But I'm going to find a big ass brushless motor. One so big I'm going to have to cut open like the M4 pistol grip to fit it in. Put that thing in there. Run a brushless motor with my 6L lipo dangling off. I should get, if I got two, I know there's a Rhino or Zippy Compact. They sell like 1400 mAh 11.1 lipos, but they're like cubes.
This is small.
I'm thinking though, get two of them, put them together, and hang them off the front of the gun like fuzzy dice.
Oh,
Wait,
God.
what kind of batteries are you talking about?
Talk about big 2.111s.
11.1s, yeah,
two of them?
3-cell
Oh.
lipos. That they make they look like bricks. They're like almost cubes. Actually, they look almost like a perfect cube.
Okay,
I'll just tie them together. And hang them
You
together to gun.
definitely are going for a smoke screen. I can tell you that much. You and your own team won't see what's going on.
We'll go out in a blaze of glory.
I'm deploying smoke. Hold on, team.
I have
thing gets nailed with high velocity BB.
I could
Yeah, I
just
looked it up,
imagine,
yeah.
man, really bad AOE bust if for some reason a BB gets jammed in the barrel. Boom.
Well, with the 6-cell, for that glorious half a second, it was only 16 to 1's 22 TPA motor. It was only going about 40. It was only going about 40 rounds a second. So, I mean, the only difference between this and any other 40 round a second, 50 round a second high speed build is that this one has a 6-cell lipo. It's like everyone goes for low ratio gears. No, I'm just crank the power up, turn it to 6 specifically, and go from there.
Okay, DSG is apart.
But yeah, anyway, I'll need brushless motor. That's going to be pretty hard to find. Just one, having the right axle size. You're going to need an armature that's not going to burn up.
You just need to find one you can put the pinion on it. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're going to have to modify the end or something to put a pinion on it.
Yeah, that's my biggest issue with like these brushless motors. A lot of them, the ones that I found, they're all really small. It's like they're not meant to put out a huge amount of torque because they're like RC motors for planes and such. It's kind of discouraging.
Well, couldn't we just down the spring?
Well, it's also
But
going to
more
be shooting.
FPS
Like,
equals better, right?
well, no, I've already short
Yeah, but
M160.
I think we should go to more reliability from this point. I mean,
It's been short stroke on an M160. It's not getting above 350 FPS with .2s.
think about it this way. If you went to the store and you bought a brand new gun and it was extremely reliable, like, you use it for a year or two before it actually goes downhill, you would just be like, okay, now check this, and it's still extremely reliable because all the parts are reliable. I would rather buy like that instead of I bought a gun, oh, it works for first 2 or 3 games, got to replace the part.
Well, this is a 6-cell lipo that I'm using. It's gonna
You don't understand.
You don't understand. I'm going to use 12 cells pretty soon. You don't get it. I'm going to double it every single time I want to.
But by the time I'm too old to airsoft, it will be up to an 18-cell lipo build. I will be that guy with a Guinness Book of World Record plaque on his wall for most
And your
volts
nickname
ran
is
through an
going to be
airsoft gun.
Smokescreen, that's for sure.
It's going to be Blazem.
Don't worry, guys. They will not see us. Let me start up my gun real quick.
Plan. I'm gonna go over there, light that area up. I'm gonna attack.
Okay, let me grab out my cell phone, have the fire department on hold.
You call
Now
the commander,
go.
tell the guys in. You call the fire department. Also, I might want a medical team out here. Tell them that there's a burn victim. Someone starts walking through the smoke of the batteries. Hit. I call my hits, man.
Like once you get out a Geiger counter at that point. It's gonna start putting off its own radiation.
That would be funny if someone was able to make a small enough reactor, man, portable reactor, and ran an airsoft gun off of it.
I can see it now, Raven. I can see you with your 12 cell battery. You got a line, kind of like a Polar Star setup. It goes to your backpack, so that the backpack's insulated in a way that if there's a fire or explosion, you're safe.
Well, if I was going to do something that big, I might as well just complete my Space Marine outfit, make the backpack functional, and
You have to
let's
go for a flamethrower. Jeez.
I really need to get that Space Marine outfit finished. Because then I could just modify it for airsoft purposes. That would be really fun.
Okay, I've cut 2 more coils. I'm going to start messing with the hop-up fitting and see what's going on with the nozzle.
Don't forget to check the cylinder head. Putting the air nozzle on the cylinder head too.
Yeah.
You
All right,
you
should
may
we
also want to
continue?
look at the tappet plate and see if the tappet plate in the front is bent.
Bent. Does not look like it.
Okay.
Shall we try to salvage this and try to get back on topic, or have we lost hope in that?
Yeah, we're kind of on topic right now.
Well, the topic was discussion, our thoughts and opinions on various systems.
Oh, we've blown way past that.
Yeah, we talked about
Yeah, we're not on
HP.
that topic. We're on some topic, but it's not that one.
Yeah, we need to move on to another one.
Technically, we're always on topic. It may not be the one we want to be
Yeah.
on, but
Unless we're talking about California.
We've never been on.
yeah, we've never gone astray away from it. A topic.
Yeah.
We have gone away from the topic. All right,
Absolutely.
back onto the topic.
The topic at hand, which is...
Gas blowback rifles. Unless you get Viper Tech, they're all going to be the same. The only difference is price. Boom, we're done. That's pretty much it when you start looking at the gas blowback systems.
well-
It's like,
I'll start talking about my Polar Star then, I guess. I bought a pump a while back, and I use it to pump up my
the
containers.
Benjamin.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I would say it's a little bit below decent, but it's okay. And then I kind of looked around, and I was like, maybe I should get a shoebox. A shoebox compressor. Have you guys seen that?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm done with you, Google.
Yeah, the little boosters.
Yeah, I kind of thought about doing that. I don't know.
Honestly, if I ran an HPA setup at all, I would drop the money for that, because when you look at it, that's going to be about the cost of buying your own scuba tank and getting that whole setup from the scuba tank to run one of those from home. Or
It's
you're gonna
really
have
not as
to-
bad as a lot of people say.
I know there's a lot of like Patriot 76 on the forums. He
Yeah.
runs his Polestar, but every weekend he has to stop off at Antioch Paintball for half
Yeah.
an hour, have him fill his tank. And I know it's not that bad, but honestly, for someone like me who I'll gladly sit in my backyard for 30 minutes to an hour, just taking pot shots at a target, working on my hop up, to need to go. No, for me it would be consistently like, honestly, I could blow through 5 pounds of propane in a week, depending on how much work I'm doing on my guns. Easy, 5.
Yeah.
I think 1 week
What?
6.
When does the When does the shots start to come inconsistent from the tank PSI? Does anybody know that? When?
Honestly, I've got a gold poppet in my Polar Star, and the one thing I really like about the gold poppet is, rather than with gas shots becoming gradually less powerful, with the poppet, the shots don't become noticeably less powerful. Instead, it just stops. Like,
That's cool.
It-
I like that.
See, I
About what
noticed.
PSI?
I noticed probably around, if I remember, between 500 and 800 that I start to see a difference. But I think past that, I don't really notice it. That it's getting
Alrighty.
too low.
I'll be back because my buddy just made me a new icon, and Google's screwing around with me and my Google Plus profile, so I shall return.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So
I was just
That's the big
wondering, in theory, if it was possible to do air in your mags and air in your gun, and it can compensate for enough PSI, and we could stop using tanks. I was just wondering if that was a possibility.
I mean, to make it an acceptable price, and I mean, if someone's gonna drop $800 on a fusion engine without the peripherals, all right, then probably a decent price for an HPA system that houses the tank and the pressure, everything in the gun, probably up to $300 at that point then. And honestly, I think just that the design of a system like that is so limited unless you're running something like an M16 A1 with that big full stock. That's a steel tank.
Which
You're
are
just
great,
not going to
by
have
the way.
enough volume. It's just not going to have enough volume for you to use it effectively in an HPA setup.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that, and I was also kind of wondering of safety. I mean, you're moving around with this gun, and if you drop the gun,
Mm-hmm.
You got a steel fragmentation grenade held up against your face.
Sounds like an amazing idea.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
That's why when I start looking around on the forums and stuff, all the guys who run HPA seriously, they always advocate covering your tanks in one of those big, cushy neoprene covers and putting it in a bag, like a backpack somewhere out of the way that you're not going to hit it, so that you don't damage the tank at all. Because at best, you just develop a leak, and it's not going to pass the next compression test.
yeah.
First, you get a catastrophic failure, and it just...
I've seen on a forum online somebody had a catastrophic failure with a paintball gun. Supposedly, it actually exploded and shot off and killed the mom. Hit her in the face and killed her instantly. Supposedly, I don't know how true that is. Then I saw another one where a guy was burned on his arms and everything because he was trying to put it.
yeah.
He was trying to screw it onto his gun, and boom, it exploded for whatever reason.
Well, I know there are some guys who will oil the valves on their tanks.
I think
which
that's what that one was, if I remember.
because with HPA tanks, if you take the valve off the top of the tank, oil it, put it back on, and start compressing air into it, I can't remember what the PSI.
I think it's over 800. I remember reading.
Yeah, where it just self-combusts because there's enough oxygen in there, and at that high pressure already, it blows up. And yeah, it's not a big enough factor, especially for me, where it's like, all right, that's one of those. It's like running LiPo batteries. It's just, all right, you just don't run it all the way. No, you just don't do something stupid. Just proper maintenance and whatever, and that will prevent 99.9% of all problems you have.
But this is America now.
Yeah, it's American.
Yeah. America.
Better, right? Okay, I'm gonna make a call and say that this piston is unusable now.
Why?
Well, the reinforcement behind the pickup tooth is bent and about ready to snap, despite the rack being glued in.
JV Weld.
Yeah. For non
I've tried that actually. I've tried to add reinforcement back on pistons before. It's a terrible idea. I've even tried to add material like cutting off plastic and then putting it over the tooth and gluing it on or melting it together. Yeah. It will start to work, but then it wears down and it just the snap again.
Then it will start to not work.
I'm going to turn on my camera real quick. This is the piston itself. This was one of my first Swiss cheese jobs, so it wasn't that great, and I took off rails in all the wrong places anyway. So I was going to replace it in a bit just because, but that kind of gave me an excuse. That's bent. It's really hard to see on here, but it's bent just enough to where I'm not too confident in its ability to stay alive much longer.
I'm going to give you guys a warning here. My sister's best friend just came over, and if you just hear girls screaming in the background, I mean, just accept that.
Hey, that's how we would get more views, man. You need to bring more girls in.
More
Text
females.
gone wild.
They have to play Airsoft too.
Yeah, we need. I should get a girlfriend just for this purpose.
Get them high first with the BBs, and then we have a
Call
whole
the
bunch of them.
hits.
I mean, you could ask Bill Cosby for tips.
Yeah,
Bill, do you have a second? Yeah. I need some tips.
yeah, bro.
Well, you're going to have to get visitation. He's in prison now.
He's a busy guy.
Is he really in jail now?
I believe he is.
Yeah, because finally enough women came out about the sexual harassment stuff that there was finally, it wasn't like one or two nut jobs. It was like, all right, he's done it to enough women where this, I think it was like 8, 9
He was
women.
like in the 30s or 40s.
And it's like, all right, this is enough people where it's serious.
Well, I think Time Magazine actually did a cover where they had profile shots of all the women that had come forward with any kind of accusation, and it was like 30 or 40 different women.
There was only, not all of them were serious allegations. I know a lot of them were, it was like date
Some
rape
were
or
not
something.
as serious as others, but still, that's a lot of people to be messing around.
I don't know if he really did mess with that many people. That seems kind of unreal.
Have you taken a sexual harassment course? It's 4 hours of anything you say can be held against you in the court of law. And
I've taken one of those for my firefighting job.
you look at it and it's like, all right, if you say something to a woman at all, there is a very real chance that they could take it to HR and you will be questioned by HR about its appropriate conduct. Just because the way their whole system's set up is. Now, from what I got from the whole 4-hour thing was that they can say just about anything you do can be brought up to HR. And then the HR questions you, and then from there, human resources makes the decision on whether or not to carry forward. But it's like just the fact that anything you say or do can be brought up, and HR has to accept it as this is sexual harassment. Is just
And
like,
it automatically goes on your record just because it was brought up.
yeah, I'm not sure. I know it gets put on as it was mentioned, but also in the state of California, you cannot, and Washington, you cannot legally request information about someone's arrest record when you're trying to hire them. Like, it doesn't really matter what you put on your record. We're off topic again, aren't we?
Yeah.
Seems like mostly the off topic starts when you start talking, Raven.
Back on it,
That's
right?
because I'm sitting here. I got 8 gas blowback magazines to do, and it's just like my mind is just going numb from doing the same thing.
Over and over.
Yeah, I'm on my 8th magazine. Shitloads of sanding. I got metal filings all over my tech bench, my
That
hand.
sucks.
Circle 1,000. And
I remember
Yeah.
those days, man. Pulling out my Dremel, going away at so much material.
Okay, so poll question for everybody here. When you slap together a gearbox, just like kind of describe the amount of grease that you distribute between the gears, piston rails, cylinder, etc. How much is too much, and etc. I have a general idea, but I always have felt that I put too much in.
I only put where parts touch.
Well,
If something doesn't really touch, why put it there?
Yeah.
So, like for instance, I put it on the rails of the piston, the teeth of the piston. Got to put some on the O-rings, of course.
Yeah.
But there would be like no point on some of the gears, areas of the gears that don't touch things. If you have shims on top of your bevel, and there's no way that the bevel is really going to touch your gearbox, why put grease on top of your bevel then? You can put it on the axle, but there's no point in putting it on top of the bevel, as an example.
And if you're running bearings, then there's especially no point.
Well, you still want to put some kind of lubrication, though.
Yeah.
I think that's mainly because of how the bearings are made. Some bearings are better than others. You won't need as much lubrication, but I guess it just depends on the quality.
Well, there's also, I know, I can't remember what forum member I got from. I want to say it was James to Jones. He mentioned how he just covers his gearbox shell with some grease because if something breaks, it does a great job of catching it. And that actually happened to me when I lost the motor pinion screw, and there was one more metal chunk that went flying off of one of my gearboxes. And I found it stuck in the grease that I put on the shell of the gearbox, right above the sector and spur. And it was just stuck on the wall, nicely held there.
Yeah, but that's kind of considering you should have glued that in, though, shouldn't you?
Well,
or locked it down or something.
I
don't know if well, maybe my opinion is I don't like really having grease everywhere. That's just my opinion. I don't think it's terribly bad unless it's thick. Once it's thick, that's a bad problem.
Yeah, it's not like I just squeezed a tube in the gearbox until it filled up. It was just like I took one of my sister's makeup brushes, this absolutely tiny thing, kind of like a paintbrush, and gave it a nice little thin coat, just enough so if something were to strip, it would have enough sticking power to hold it. But yeah, it wasn't thin, it wasn't thick, it was just enough, which wasn't all that much, I found out. But yeah, it's like, for the most part though, I just stick it on the gear teeth and kind of on the piston rails and let it sort itself out.
Oh, you guys want to hear something interesting? Remember I said I was trying out like methods of how to preserve a piston, the back pickup tooth? I actually had one where I put an O-ring on the back, like a rubber extension, just to see if that would do something. And what happened is it just cut away at it eventually.
Huzzah!
When you say back, are we talking spring side or piston head side?
Oh, we're talking on the back, the pickup tooth. So when the gear would rotate and hit the first pickup tooth, there would be a section of rubber in the way first to help soften the impact. It was just a thing I tried out, but it wasn't able to stay on there. It would always pop off or get cut up.
Well, especially with that sector gear pulling at an angle at the end of the stroke.
Yeah, but in theory, that's another interesting thing is a possibility you could put something softer on the sector gear, the first tooth at least. I mean, this is a possibility of cutting it down a little bit, putting a little softer pad. I don't know. I've just always wondered if there was something to that. Because usually when you look at how does the gearbox start to deform and start to break down, well, you got wear on those teeth. If there's wear on the teeth, then that's when that's why we talk about we don't like to use very strong springs, because then the wear starts to get worse. It's more reliable when you use a less strong spring.
I just thought we didn't like putting in anything over an M150 into a gearbox. That's why I thought we all avoided heavy springs.
Unless you're out.
because we're all lazy and out of shape.
Hey,
Well,
speak for
I don't-
yourself.
I really have very little experience with AEGs, but generally in the little experience I have, it's a pain in the arse to get a gearbox to pull anything over an M170. Even an M170, it's a pain.
It's about experience. I mean,
Which
Yeah.
I have very little of.
You just got coordinated.
I don't have a problem putting M170 in. M190 is a little stiff. I think I did an M150 one-handed, a video about that,
Huh,
how to do
Yeah,
it.
you
my
did.
God.
Pretty
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah,
Yeah,
you
that's
can.
also highly
And
reliant.
I'm just sitting there like, it's gonna blow, and they just pop this gearbox top on, no problem. And it was like,
It's all about
did it.
having the spring be stable enough to not move. So you have to like put the screwdriver in the back and lock it down at a straight angle. And then if there's anything holding it down for you, that helps. But it's really, you can do it two hands. One hand to hold the spring down with the screwdriver. It's all about the right tool, the right method, and the right tool. Because if I don't hold the tool right, then yeah, of course it's gonna shoot off. But if you're holding the tool correctly and it's the right kind of tool, that spring is really not going to move, and you can close the gearbox.
The three things for me that I do to help ensure the gearbox closes, and I learned this a lot using the M160 on the 6-cell gearbox. I use a screwdriver. You need a good spring guide that fits the slots really
Exactly, yeah.
well. That will help. I mean, the difference between a stock spring guide and one that fits the gearbox perfectly makes everything like 100% easier. It's so nice because once you have it in, you can take the screwdriver off, and the spring just stays there. It's amazing.
And that
Second
can be
thing
said.
is-
That can be said about a lot of things. You could talk about like the spring to the universal latch too. Sorry, I kind of cut you off.
But yeah, I was going with like when I close it, I'll have I would start from the cylinder head side and kind of roll it onto the spring, and then roll from the top to the bottom because the anti-reversal latch always gets in the way. So I like to have the top of the compression components in the gearbox secured first, and then that takes all the tension of like, oh, is the spring going to pop out? And then I could just fiddle with the gear axles and stuff. Because basically when I put the shell on, I go from cylinder head to spring guide and then roll it and then close it down onto the gears. And that way it locks in. It gets the cylinder head and piston lined up, spring connected, and then I fill with the gear axles last, which I found to be pretty good. But whenever you're wrestling with a spring, anything over an M140, especially if you're newer to anything over an M140, it's just a pain in the ass because it's a heavy spring.
Yeah, you just have to be
Yeah.
more delicate.
It's hard to be more delicate when you're sitting there with like 30 pounds of force just holding the spring in and just like don't.
I would say if I didn't have the screwdriver I have, I would not be able to do the M150 one-handed, and I probably would not be able to do anything above an M150 very well at all. I mean, you have to have that kind of tool. It has to be something. My screwdriver is very long, and it goes through some of those spring guides. They allow you to go through all the way, so you can just put the screwdriver down in through it and lock it into the gearbox easily. It helps to push tension on the whole spring. I mean, if you can think about it, if the screwdriver is really long and you're pushing downwards, you're basically holding the spring straight, and the whole top of the parts is just solid stuck. So nothing's really moving, and then you can just close it up.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, once I put that 160 in the 6-cell gearbox, I think that really emphasized all the points on why I don't like working on a gearbox. And I've kind of just been sick of
So,
the fiasco.
so what's the deal with your 6-cell?
Self-protect. Yes.
He's
So-
gonna make it into a grenade and lob it at people.
Fireball!
Just
So-
shoot stripped gear teeth at people.
It was about, I think it was a little over a year ago. Yeah, it was Easter weekend last year, so it was about a year and a half ago. I basically spent the entire day playing video games with another forum member, Proficient, and we've been playing video games about 12 hours at that point. Then he started teching, so I did a Google Hangouts with him, and I was up at 6 a.m. It was about 1 a.m. I hadn't moved out of my chair all day, and we're sitting there. It's 1 a.m. I'm really loopy, and we start talking about various gearbox builds, and then I just decide, what if I did a high-speed build with 18-to-1 gears, JG Blue, 6-cell LiPo?
Oh
Don't
god.
go for like speedy motors or high-speed gears. Just go for raw power. We had a good laugh. I made a thread on Airsoft Society, and that was the start of it.
AKA ball fire.
And then finally,
How the hell would a 6-cell even work though?
it burns a lot of stuff up there.
Magic.
But basically,
Yeah, that's what I
if
was
you-
thinking.
like if you hold a high torque motor in your hand, and you do a circuit test, you have a MOSFET rigged up, you pull the trigger, motor's in your hand, it kind of gives a little jolt.
Yeah.
I was holding a JG Blue 2-cell LiPo, click, just fine. Held it the same way, plugged in the 6-cell. That motor leaked out of my hand 8 inches before it hit the ground, and I was only holding it a few inches off the ground. That thing just took off. And then when I put it in a vise, hooked it up to the 6-cell and started running it, that thing sounded like it was about to tear itself apart to the RPM.
Man.
And that was on the stock 22 TPA JG Blue armature. 6-cell
Man.
speed. And did got one short burst. I got it on some GoPro video. It's up on my YouTube channel. But from all the audio tests that I've done, I put the clip in Audacity, looked at the audio. It's about 40 rounds a second on a 22 TPA motor and 16-to-1 gears.
What? God, that thing must be terrifying.
It burnt out after not even half a second. It was like 0.3 seconds.
Oh
And the
my
motors.
god.
It was amazing, though. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, just at that point, your stuff was too small. Your wires can't handle that kind of voltage
That
and
was,
amperage.
when it burned out, I'm pretty sure I was using the 6-strand 22 TPA arm. So, and by 6-strand, I got a 30-gauge magnet wire, which is 1/4 the size of the regular wire. I think it's 20-gauge that they use in motors, but it's about
Much
one.
smaller than 20 gauge.
Yeah, it's significantly smaller, but by volume, you could get about. To get the same volume, you need about 5 strands of 30 gauge to equal the same volume as a 1 strand of 20 gauge, and that's why I got it. So I didn't have too much wire in the armature. So I mean, overall, it had more volume of wire to carry the current through. It's just I didn't put it on correctly, and it only carried the current through about three strands. It burnt all of those up. So that's what killed it.
No, your thought of I'll use 6-cell is what killed it.
Yeah, exactly. The wiring has nothing to do with it. It's your... Okay, I have no experience with electrical wire. I have no experience with motors. I have very little experience with gearbox. I try not to stay... Stupidly complicated for me. Can't deal with it. I can find a leak in your gas blowback in 10 seconds flat. Can't do anything AEG related. The thought of a 6-cell LiPo scares me. I hardly even know what you're talking about, and it scares me.
Let me grab it off my shelf really quick and just show you a size comparison.
Please, God, no, the nightmares.
Oh, God.
I'm telling you, if he gets 6-cell running reliable, he'll go to 12-cell.
That is a big if, though. Like, that's an if in and of itself. But if he can get 6-cell running, oh, okay.
It's possible to get a 6 cell running. You just have to make it, a little bit more reliable though.
For longer than half a second.
Oh yeah.
Theoretically, anything is possible, but
A regular speed, like it was 40 rounds a second. All right,
Why
we can
not?
make AEGs from that. It's just the electrical system that I'm trying to flush out, which at this point for me, it's just solder wires better.
Well, you
That's
also
all I
you need thicker gauge.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah,
like,
jumping up the voltage that
And
much.
and you gotta definitely 100% make sure there's no short. If there's a short anywhere, oh man, you can
yeah, there was
fry
no short. I
something.
heat shrink every connector. I made sure everything was just absolutely sealed.
Yeah, what if there's a
Yeah,
short
alright.
inside that motor? Motor's toasted instantly.
So here's the 7.4 2200 milliamp batteries that I normally run.
okay.
Here's a JG Blue can for size comparison. It's got all my files on it.
Do I even want to see this thing?
You can kind of get an idea. Here it is, sideways. Thickness. It's so big, it's got 4.5 millimeter bullet connectors instead of the 3.5 millimeter
Yeah,
What?
ST6.
yeah, you have to change the end. I've seen that many times.
It's just, it's massive.
And then when
This
you
should
go
not be a thing.
and when you
Why
go to
is this a
solder
thing?
it too, when you go to solder the Deans on it, it's the wire's freaking huge thick.
God, I can
Well-
barely solder Deans onto normal wire.
It's a 12 gauge wire, same as what's on the other Zippy compact brand lipos.
Hey, what's your guys' opinion on Firefox lipos?
I've heard they're really piss poor.
Okay, because
Well,
I've got two, and I don't really see a huge gap except one melted on me the other day.
It kind of goes with the name, fire.
that's a problem.
Yeah,
That's a
putting
pretty
anything
significant
related
problem.
to flames in your company name when you make batteries.
yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's not a huge deal because I was just testing out a battery bag, but
Well,
Thank God.
I haven't even really looked at them just because the cost of your generic Chinese lipos is much lower. But
yeah,
the only application I've seen people use them in is they're kind of shaped like NIMHs, some of them. So they
Yeah.
fit in some weirder guns like AK-47s, MP5Ks, but now with these tiny little nanotechs, there's not even a reason for that anymore.
Yeah.
Well, when you're talking about look like nickel metal hydrides, I saw someone running a Firefox lipos at the local field, and I thought he had a nickel metal hydride plugged into a charger. The lipo cells were puffed up, where the little rectangles were quite literally tubes, and he wasn't concerned at all. He said, "Oh yeah, they do that."
They do
So,
that.
They
Darwin
do
is
that.
more today.
Maybe you
It's
can
just like-
maybe you can learn something from him, Raven, when you use your 6 cell. Yeah, they do that.
Watch it, do not do as he does.
don't.
This is why I'm building the 6 cell and recording it at the very least on these tech sessions for you guys and on the GoPro. So as stuff fails, as stuff happens, I have a YouTube video of it.
Brilliant.
Yes,
Link
it's not so
that
much
in
for the
chat,
science.
and I'm gonna go look at that.
Chronicle the madness.
Yeah. Which it's gonna be a while until I get another update. Cause money, I spent it all on that Takana M700.
You mean
Dude.
Tanaka?
Tanaka. I don't know why I keep calling it Takana.
It's
Or
called a
whatever the hell.
tilapia.
You actually ended up buying that Tanaka?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yes, I wanted the KJW M700, but the Tanaka is much better built just to begin with, and most of the aftermarket parts are designed for the Tanaka.
Yeah.
There's only a couple that are designed for the KJW, so everything needs to be modified to fit the KJW because it's only like a 90% clone. So-
Very quickly though. pretty sure it's either a trigger box thing or the firing pin needs to be replaced.
Yeah, I
One
know
or the
that's
other.
one of the problems that I've seen on those is that
Yeah.
the mag strikers. But yeah, it's like
yeah.
30. It's like $30, and you could get the G&G power pack, which replaces the springs and all that.
Okay, yeah.
in the
See,
magazines and-
I know nothing about that, so I'd much rather just get rid of it and give it to someone who knows what he's doing than hang on to it and try and just find a project wall for it.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue about any problems it does have when I paid
Yeah.
like what 60% retail price.
Yeah,
for
pretty.
everything.
Okay, at that point, it had been listed for like 3 months.
That's seeing your thread. It was like, oh, 500 or best offer, and I'm like, all right, that's fairly reasonable.
Yeah.
And then you're dropping it, and it's like what 2 months, 2.5 months it was up, and no one was serious about buying it.
That preacher guy kept saying, "Oh, once I get the money, I'd really love to pick it up." And he made like 4 posts on this. I was like, "Stop taunting me! If you're gonna buy it, just buy it. Otherwise, just stay off the thread."
That's what I get. There was one guy calling
Which angst.
a KWA. It's like this LM4 that's been super upgraded.
Oh my god! I almost got my hands on that thing. I almost got it.
Well,
Almost.
Lucky you.
In my thread, it's like, all right, what to buy? All right, WE magazines, an NPass, maybe a KJW 226, maybe an M700, and it's like most of the items I'm looking for. No, it's like, all right, 120 bucks at most. That, hey, you should buy my gun. I check it out, and he wants like 650 for it, and it's like, what was the trigger in his mind that thinks, oh, this guy would have the money to buy my gun?
Wait, hold on. Which LM4 are you talking about? Because there's
I can't
there's
remember
like
the guy's name, but I know there's like
Solar Phantom, and then there's like Airsoft Squad something or other.
I can't remember the username off the top of my head, but yeah, it was the big thing was just like the disconnect between what he was asking for his gun and kind of the price range of items.
Also,
I
the
was
fact
asking
that you didn't ask for it.
Yeah. Although I
I-
didn't specifically say
People like that sort of bug me.
absolutely no offers other than these. It's like
People like
I
that
hate to
sort of
say
bug
it.
me. People who will go to any wanted post whatsoever and push the one item they're trying to sell each and every time, all the time.
I hate to
The
say it,
best
but
part is on
unfortunately,
Facebook,
more
when you go to the top and you say no trades or specifically trading for these items, randomly out of the woods, random trade items. Like, no, did you not read anything?
Okay, I want to say guilty as charged. Occasionally, I will offer something on trading specifically for. Occasionally, I'll offer my TM Glock because I just want to get that thing gone. Occasionally, so I'm slightly guilty of that. But I try
But is
to.
it one of those things where it's like the guy's asking for a pistol?
Yes.
No, like, and it's not like, hey, I'm looking for a gas blowback M4, specifically a WE.
No,
you want-
no. He'll be asking for I'm asking for a TM high cap or a TM 226. I'll
Okay, that's not
occasionally offer him a Glock.
That's reasonable. I mean,
I
at
try
least
to be fairly respectful about people.
my TM.
Yeah.
Oh, Justin, that guy that offered me the SR25 for the M16,
Yeah?
literally it took him 5 PMs to establish that he was asking to trade on a non-trade post. He had me going 5 personal messages before he announced that he was trading and not
Oh,
actually
My
intending to
God.
pay.
He's just like, God, no. I actually just made another purchase. I actually ended up buying that KJW Glock 23.
Did you buy it from that guy?
Yeah,
Was
I
that
bought,
Christoph and Silver Fox or whoever he was?
it was like VGM 1.
Oh,
something.
yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
bought
thought
that
he
Glock.
sold it out under you in a second.
No, okay, I was kind of pissed because we were PMing and he's out of town until the 20th, and he made it clear and I can show you the PMs. He said, yeah, I'd like, you know, you don't have to PayPal me until I get back.
Oh,
But
did he go behind your back and sell it?
no, I ended up getting it, but he said, yeah, you don't have to PayPal me till I get back on the 20th. That way, you know, I prefer that. That way I don't have the money. That way I only get the money when I can ship it.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
okay. I'm like, that's totally fair. Like, thank you a lot. And then 2 days later, he bumps up his KJW post. He's like, still available, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, we made
Just
a deal.
mark
Like,
it as sold already.
and then so I PM'd him, and he's like, yeah, I need the money, you know, by the 19th or the 19th at the latest. I'm like,
Oh.
dude, what? I'm like, all right, I'll PayPal you right now. I mean, it's fine. Just don't pull that shit. That's just fucking. Ugh. Yeah, really angsty.
Well,
Who's John Doe?
Bill Simop.
Oh, hey. Another
Hello.
thing that on this DSG, because G&P grips are notoriously tight, when I put 16 gauge wire back in, I completely stripped the insulation off and just heat shrinked it. Much thinner than the normal insulation is. So it actually fit 16 gauge pretty well.
That's odd because my heat shrink is much. Well, it might not be thicker actually. I always put it over the top of insulation.
Well, I'm surprised. I have a 14 gauge wire that I got at Home Depot, the like trailer wire stuff, standard copper, PVC insulation. I can fit that 14 gauge stuff in all my version 2 and version 3 gearboxes, no problem.
It's the wire. Sometimes there's thinner, sometimes there's thicker.
Am I coming through now?
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Is that yeah to me?
Zach, I tested the nozzle. It's pretty tight on the cylinder head, but totally loose in the hop up.
It's pretty tight.
It's pretty tight.
You might have to remove some of it or put a different air nozzle on. You might want to check different resistances.
Well, I just put this cylinder head in because it had Sorbo already glued to it, and I didn't want to do that to the stock head it came with, so I'll just put the stock head in there with a faucet washer.
Is my mic working now?
Well, there's different things you could do. You could take out the O-ring and file that down, or you could. There's different approaches you could use. If you have a different air nozzle, put one on there, see how it fits. But you still have to check everything the same way you're checking, though, for each and every air nozzle. I know some of the O-rings. I was working on an air nozzle a long time ago, on a special air nozzle, and it was very tough because they're so thin. So the O-ring on the inside, the reason it would be tougher on some of them and give more resistance is that it's tugging more, it's touching more on that cylinder head. So I could see, you know, every air nozzle is going to have either some resistance or a little less resistance because of it could just be barely too tight.
Yeah. Well, it fits just fine on the stock G&P head. I just swapped out the head just because I was lazy in the moment.
I don't understand why we didn't, like, from what I can tell from looking at the design, the reason the air nozzle is so thin is because it was never meant to be made with an O-ring, and then they're made with an O-ring, and that's why some of them break in that area, and they're fragile in that area, especially if you try to make space for it. Because you can also, what you can do is you can take the O nozzle and Dremel the inside where the O-ring would go and make it a little bit more space. And then when you put the O-ring in, it sits in there a little easier. But or it makes also less resistance when it goes on the cylinder head. But when you do that approach, it's so damn thin. So I don't understand like why we haven't updated to bigger air nozzles, thicker air nozzles, and bigger holes for the chambers, the the hop-up chambers. Like, I don't think, they're not going to change that. I was even doing hop-up chambers, and the hop-up chambers, there's some areas you just cannot make very thick in materials, so they just won't go in the gearbox or in the gun, excuse me. And then where it touches the gearbox too, it can't be thick in those areas. Kind of sucks.
So get back to Glocks. A friend of mine recently found his KSC KWA GTC, and I've been having the pleasure to sort out the leaky mag. He said it came pre-upgraded, and well, so I'll show you. Here's the valve that it came with, and if you'll notice, can't get my damn phone to say, but see how much brass there is above the O-ring? I don't know what gun it's supposed to go in, but here's the valve for my WE High Kappa. The valve itself, I looked at how the KSC valve is supposed to be. It's supposed to only have like this much brass on it. This one has like 3 times the thickness. So it sticks out to the point where it trips every time the magazine gets put in the gun. Thankfully, my Tokyo Marui 226 magazine has the right valve, like the exact valve needed to fit in the magazine. So while my friend's ordering parts and I'm waiting for them to get in, I can at least have a valve to test the gun with. Now my second issue with this is the base plate is leaking all over. Like as much gas as I put in, it just shoots out the base plate. So I've RTV'd the hell out of it. Hopefully that will fix it.
Yeah. Generally what I find for the most part in between models is that KSC, KWA, valve compatibility works the same way parts compatibility does. So WE, KJW, TM, all of those still generally have compatible valves. And with KWA and KSC and a couple weird companies like Tanaka or Marushin, they'll have different or proprietary valves.
Well, I know the little blowback unit. The blowback unit's completely proprietary. I've never seen a TM style nozzle doesn't work. And looking at a lot of the parts and looking at like TM spec and the KSC spec ones, a lot of the parts are just completely different. So I mean that is kind of one bummer because you do have to order overseas for a lot of the KSC parts.
Yeah.
And I mean, the biggest thing that's bumming me out is this base plate is just so leaky. And the magazine, the fill valve is a little bit leaky, nothing too bad. I mean, if this base plate gets sealed up, I should be able to fill the mag, get a handful of rounds off before the fill valve leaks out enough gas to affect it.
Sounds like your O-rings are probably stretched too much.
I've tried. I have a couple spare WE fill valves that I've pulled the O-rings out of. I've put them in the KWA valve. That hasn't helped at all.
Well, you can tell what the problem is right away, can't you? You ever done the water test or anything like that, and you can see where it's leaking from?
Well, currently, I'm just trying to get the base plate to seal, because until I get the base plate sealed, then it's not really worth...
What magazine is it?
It's a extended magazine, KSC Glock.
Okay, well, it should be very similar with any of the magazines. I would suppose, if you RTV it and it still leaks, it's down to the O-rings for sure. And I really hate sometimes, like I'm looking at some of the parts, the O-rings stretch a little bit, and I think what it also comes down to, those O-rings have been sitting in a warehouse, or that the gun or whatever has been sitting in a warehouse for so long, and the O-ring just gets stretched eventually.
Yeah.
Or they're made too big in the first place. They could be made too big in the first place.
You know what I got my hands on the other day that I'm absolutely loving? Is I got my hands on a couple original packet of the now discontinued original TM air-sealed O-rings for fill valves. And those things are just crazy good compared to like Moondogs. Those things are just crazy good.
That's an interesting name, Moondogs.
Yeah.
That's one of Evike's in-house brands.
Yeah,
They do a little.
don't go near it with a 10-foot pole.
Their anti-fog is decent, but I'm sure it's just a generic brand anti-fog, just put in a black bottle with a Moondog label on it.
Pretty much.
Do you think there are companies out there that they're like OEMs for like a dozen generic brand items, and then one of the people that approached them, we're an airsoft company, we just need this insignificantly small mortar put together. Could you just put these blue nozzles on top of your existing bottles?
It probably really happens, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, looking at a bunch of airsoft stuff like those O-rings, those Moondog O-rings, how they're kind of red, I found very similar looking O-rings on Hobby King. Same exact size.
Oh boy.
Comes in a 6-pack.
Hobby King
Exactly the
O-rings?
same color. Yeah, they're only available from Hong Kong, though.
Oh.
Got a question from your friend, it looks like. I have a bit of non-teching question, just general question. What is everyone's favorite model of assault rifle?
Is this affected?
This is off Twitch.
Oh, so okay. Yeah, that'd be a friend of mine. He's the guy who's doing the custom M9 grips and who tried to sell Humble Bundle games. So you may know him from there.
Well, are we going to answer his question or not? No one's saying anything.
I say let's. Shall we? I say let's do it.
Well, I would say, yeah, my favorite would be. It would have to be a tie between the Scar Heavy and the Knights Armament PDW. It's just, for me, it's a justifiable tie because the Scar Heavy is firing is a 308 based gun, rifle, rather than a typical assault rifle. So it's just, although running around, if I had to choose one, I would go with the Knights Armament PDW, just because. Just the size of the magazine in airsoft as well as real steel, size of the magazines, the weight is lighter. So overall, I would have to say the PDW, but very close second, the Scar Heavy.
Justin, you want to go next?
I'm taking the off for the M16, whichever one you want to call it. That's the one I choose.
Like what kind of M16? A1, A2, A3?
Probably take an A3. Yeah, I'd probably take an A3. I just love the full stock, and honestly, I'm just thinking AR platforms in general. Because with AR platforms, you don't just have gas and pigment. You have piston driven if you want. You have the option to fire 300 blackouts on models. I mean, just the AR platform in general is so buildable and it's so customizable. People say, oh yeah, it's all been done before. Well, no shit, it's all been done before. I mean, there's rarely a thing that hasn't been done before. And it's like, you can take an AR and you can build a normal 5.56 AR, or you could buy an M16 or whatever, or you could go out and you could build a 300 blackout, or you could build a 760 Grendel, I think, or 7 something Grendel.
Yeah.
You have the option to have anything that you really want. Yeah, I mean, it's such a buildable platform. It's so all-encompassing. And I'm like, people try to say, oh, well, you don't get the reliability of an AK. Well, get an LWRC. Or, another comparable model. That's a piston-driven AR. You get the reliability of an AK.
I found a kind of blog post article from the guy who owns Battlefield LA. It's this pretty large indoor gun range in LA, one of the biggest ones Las Vegas. And it's one of the bigger ones. And they have, I want to say it was like 12 legitimate palm block AKs. And throughout their maintenance cycles, the trunnion on the lower receiver that holds the barrel, on all of them, fell apart at about 150,000 rounds.
Mhm.
And it was just, it beat itself to death, which I know it will beat itself to death regardless of what you do to an AK. And I saw an AK meltdown video. Iraqi veteran 88 did an AK meltdown. The barrel was literally bent down 2 inches. It came out of the receiver. They hit it on a truck hitch, and it worked again. They're reliable as all hell, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's gonna beat itself to death.
Anyway,
And also the full ability of an AK. Why not go for like an AK-74 if you're gonna go with an AK, or the
AR.
AK-12?
That's my
The new AK-12, apparently it's phenomenal.
Okay, next person.
I'm done. AR is my final answer. AR models.
Okay, so we'll go to Walter, I guess.
All right. I'm gonna have to say it's a really, really close tie between either the M16 M4 Stanag platform, which is my all-time favorite, or I'm really, really tempted to say Scorpion Evo. Really tempted to say the Scorpion Evo. Actually, never mind. Never mind. Scratch the Evo. I'm gonna go with the Chris Vector for
Yeah, the
close
Vector is
tie.
pretty.
What?
The Vector is pretty smooth as a submachine gun. I saw a recoil test where they actually hooked it up to one of those piezoelectric pressure sensors, so it could detect the pressure, compared it to an MP5, a UMP45, and the Chris Vector had something like 42% less recoil than a UMP45, and it still eked out the MP5 by like 8% in recoil, even though it was going with the 45 caliber.
Yeah,
7.9
exactly. It's
millimeter.
the Super V system.
Yeah,
That's
because
got
the
the
bolt goes
springs.
down.
Yeah, it directs the recoil down into the magwa, which actually pushes the muzzle down to compensate for the muzzle climb.
Plus, it's got like 2,100 rounds per minute when you put plus P ammunition in it.
Exactly.
It's really cool to hear that thing go off on a suppressor.
Is it an assault
Exactly.
rifle or is it a submachine gun?
It would be a submachine
It's
gun.
technically a submachine gun, so I guess if we're going super technical, I'm going to say M16, probably M16A4. Overall, it's the most buildable. It's a nice rifle length platform. You can drop a carbine barrel into it. You can put whatever rail you want onto it. It's so customizable for both airsoft and real steel.
Alright, so let's move on to the other Zach, but his mic's off.
Yeah, I'm
So I
noticing
guess we'll
that.
go to me.
Dang it, I was talking that whole time. Good grief.
Oh,
Well, you can talk now. You can go first.
you are a special kind of special.
I was saying, like, the entire time, but the Vector isn't an assault rifle. But the Vector is an assault rifle. Just, oh my god. I was about to get pissed. I was like, come on, you can't pull off like that.
Oh my god. Bringing up like one of the most legitimate points you could bring up.
You know what we should do
Just
now?
like lol no microphone.
You know what we should do? Since Wingman missed out on this one, next time he comes on, we'll just all pretend his mic is muted. For like 5 minutes. And just start talking to each other over him. As long as he doesn't watch this far into the stream, we're good.
Yeah,
If he watches this before
this is the
next one
plan.
he's in, then we're all screwed on this joke.
Okay, on it.
Assault rifle wise, in airsoft, like purely airsoft wise, the LE5, LE6 family. The
You
gearbox is
disgusting boy.
super simple. The trigger system is great. Even though you have like 0 customizable externals, it's a great platform. I love working on mine. If we were to just go like real steel, because we've been swapping back and forth, the AR platform again, reasons have been stated. But I mean, the L86 platform, I just love mine. Even though it's been a little bit of a hassle just because the gearbox is a little bit janky, it's still, I love working on it. It's super simple.
Well, yeah, that's one of the points that you bring up is like comparing airsoft and real steel. And I know from a real steel standpoint, like I know an M16, M4, AR-15 based rifle is pretty good in terms of customization. But the reason why I chose, the PDW and Mark 17 as my two guns is when I'm looking at them, I'm looking at them as what they're going to do as a rifle, and not really like, all right, sure, I can interchange all these different ammunitions and customize everything, but if I just I haven't fired one yet, but I've held and handled a real FN Herschel Mark 17S, the import.
Ooh.
It weighs lighter. Now, loaded, it weighs the same. Unloaded, it weighs lighter than my D-Boys Star Heavy, which is just phenomenal because the aluminum on the whole thing, on the real one, is just so solid. And it's amazing. And if I was going to set something up, 308, 20-inch barrel, slap on some sort of 4 or 8 times zoom optic on it for mid to long range, yeah, that's what it would be for. That would be its purpose. It wouldn't be, because realistically, if you're running a platform, like even in Airsoft, if you run an M4, you're not going to be switching. You tend to just pick a setup that works for you, and you run with that setup. You're not sitting there constantly changing out everything on the gun.
Unless you got a split gearbox.
Unless you have that, and you're one of these guys who just wants to keep putting things up. Like, honestly, if I run my PDW at the TV arena, that's just fine. But if I want to do something where occasionally I just want to hang back and be more of a marksman role, I switch to my SCAR, because that's my dedicated one. That's the one that I have the R-hop in. That's the one that I've set, hit chest-sized targets, man-sized targets at 200 feet all day. PDW, that's the one that is just like, all right, I'm going to rock house. I want instantaneous trigger response. I wanted to push .3s downrange and hurt people. I only run them at 298 FPS with .3s, so it's about the same as 350. It's just, it is funny though, when I hit someone with a .3, it has the same muzzle energy as the .2, but it just carries that so much better downrange that feel it, which is really nice.
Okay, so I guess I'll say.
Hang on. First of all, what the heck kind of music is that, and where is it coming from?
Not me.
Not me.
Could be from me, possibly.
Trust me, if I'm gonna play music, I'm gonna play actual music.
I'll turn off my mic for a second, see if you stop hearing it.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. It's because there's TV in the background, that's why.
Gotcha.
I'll turn off my mic every time I don't talk after this. I'm just going to say, my assault rifle, I tend to like a G36, but at the same time, I probably would have to go with SCAR H, and then behind that I would go with the M4A or M16A3. So, there's my quick answer. Oh, one more thing too. I'd probably use Bert's 6-cell, assault rifle, but I would duct tape it. I would duct tape it and then throw it at the enemy, so it's an assault rifle like that.
You'll turn the corner and have the 2 3-cell fuzzy dice batteries and whack him in the face with it.
Hey, is Monaco on yet? Is Monaco on yet?
No.
I don't know.
I don't know any of you guys by your usernames, so I'm gonna be a little bit
Lost.
All right. Get that out of the way then. Me, Justin, over here, blah blah blah. I'm Magpul Man.
okay.
Come on, guys, don't be shy.
Yeah. Well, I already introduced myself because I got on it early with Save the Game and
Yeah.
sat for a few minutes.
I am Save the Game. I am the guy with the picture of with the profile picture of me when I was 5.
I just
Because
did the generic no profile avatar.
oh, thank God.
Okay, for some reason I thought that was from the Home Alone movie.
I thought the
God.
same exact thing. I was like, this guy from Home Alone?
For fuck's sake. I tried to change it. I really did. I left the chat for like half an hour and screwed around with Google trying to fix it.
Kevin!
Anyway, this Zach is the infidel.
All right.
And then the other Zach is ZachOX.
Okay. ZachOX, I don't think I'm familiar with you.
For literally years now. It's ZachOX?
Yeah, it's ZachOX.
Dadgummit.
People like to call it Zach Cox or some weird shit, but the,
That's what I thought it was.
the X
I just echoes.
the X came after it was a clan kind of thing. So once my friend and I started playing video games, we'd add X to the end of our name. So I just got used to it, and I just said, you know what, forget it. I don't even care anymore. So I just put the X at the end.
I've been saying it's ZachOX for 2 years now.
Well, you're not the only one.
I'm surprised Zachox never occurred to me. I always thought it was ZachOX or just Zachos. Or
Yeah.
like a Z instead of an X.
Before the X came around on your YouTube channel, I always thought it was just Zacho. And then when the X came around, I was like, huh, naturally.
Oh, we got some more questions.
Oh,
Brilliant. Is he doing what I instructed?
Okay, I'm guessing everyone here has built a gun from scratch.
correct.
Has everyone here built a gun from scratch? It looks
I have.
like it. What was your
I bought
first completely built
bought a
by
boneyard.
you?
Pieces. Does that count?
Okay, so what was your first completely built by you assault rifle or pistol or anything else? Oh man,
Does it have the absolute first one?
I would not remember to be honest with you. I've worked on so many guns, it's not even funny. Yeah,
My first
I
one-
wouldn't remember.
I got a G4A3 from GI. It was my first real AEG. And I didn't know it at the time, but I found out later that it actually had some decent guts going for it. But
Really?
the blowback unit broke. And I found that out by going to a CQB arena and getting it chronoed with the expectation of me not being able to play with it. And it was shooting like 220 or something. So, anyway, I brought that home and tore it apart, and in my ignorance could not put it back together.
I have had that experience many times.
Yes, so many moons later, I acquired a Boneyard JG-A3, M16A3, and combined the two in a bastardized A3 was birthed. And
All right.
That was my first. It was terrible.
I just want to say this. For my first real AEG was a JG M16A4 UFC. It's like their DMR thing.
That's the one that I got boneyarded. That thing was so strange.
It really is a weird gun.
Bushmaster sport rifle.
Yeah, it really is a weird gun, and I didn't take it apart because I've already had awful experiences with taking apart other guns without tutorials. And for the life of me, I still can't tech AEGs. But this isn't my first build, so I'm going off on a little bit of a tear here. The entire receiver and rail and barrel assembly is proprietary.
Yep.
It is the weirdest thing ever, and I'm always so gentle when I'm breaking it down to put a new something or other on it, like a new rail, because I know that if I even crack the plastic on that receiver, that gun is finished.
I actually stole the top rail off of those receivers and bolted it to something else.
Alright, sorry for that. Where were you with the custom-built guns?
Well, mine was, to say scratch built, I'm taking it like you start off with a bunch of parts.
Yeah.
You never had one to begin with, and I bought a boneyard lot. I outbid J for it at the last minute, but it had the parts equivalent of 3 complete lowers to SEMA electric blowback MP5s and 1 complete up, as well as a complete Double Eagles UMP.
Wow.
So I bought it just because the parts, luckily, all the lowers came with, all the parts lowers had JG Blue motors.
Oh, you lucky bastard.
JG Blues!
Ah.
Back to, basically at that point, tore down all the lowers, all the stock parts, found which ones I thought were the best, the axle, the bushings that had the best seating on the axle, the gears that seemed to sound the best. Basically, spent a day swapping between all these parts from the gearboxes to make the best. Seemed while I waited for SHS parts to come in. And built it up, threw in JG Blue, and it was shooting like a whopping 15 rounds a second on the JG Blue stock 18.
Man.
The electric made it sound really cool, though. Yeah, that was, even though it was a stock gun.
Oh, we just lost some people.
You gone?
Yeah. Oh.
So I actually have it right here. I'll go next. What I would classify as my first ground up build. I mean, obviously I've got another gun that I built. But I bought a gun, or I had a gun, and I just totally recustomized it. But as I showed earlier, this Mark 18 that I'm building, this is what I classify as my first ground up build.
That thing looks sweet.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's I'll start from the back. Magpul ACS stock, some random QD attachment point, obviously just random buffer tube, Magpul MOE grip, GMP receivers, and GMP gearbox, Lonex unit, ZCI barrel, Mark 18 rail, Magpul angle foregrip, hammer short dot. Internally, right now, not a whole lot of upgrades, just a Zard FET. It's R-hopped. Yeah. It's what I classified as my first ground-up build.
What was the rail again?
It's a Mark 18 rail.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it's just pretty straightforward.
I feel like whenever I try and do a unique build, everything, like I figured a couple months ago, oh, I'm going to do a key mod build. Those aren't that popular. I'll have a unique gun. And then the key mod craze kicked in, and then every other gun that someone wanted to sell had a key mod on it.
That was me about a year and a half. I forgot when I got my key mod, but on my main rifle, I was like, oh, key mod's kind of cool. Not a lot of people have it. Bought it, and like you said, key mod craze went off, and it was insane.
Yeah. I stuck just an SR25 rail on my primary because I like the way it looks and it's cheap and I had it on hand and it's just decent. Okay, sorry, I'm interrupting. Alright, next custom gun.
Who here hasn't shared their story?
I haven't.
Nope.
Alright.
First gun I built custom up was my Polar Star, honestly. I'm going to start out with like a flashy start. It was the first, I bought the engine and the inner barrel and hop-up setup from a guy on eBay, and I got the entire thing for a trade for a KJW High Kappa and $120 because the airline and the what are they called? Solenoids in the Polar Star engine were fried. And so I got all the warranty information and I sent it off to Polar Star and they said, oh, you know, we can't fix this for you because the last owner didn't take care of it at all. And he kept pulling on the hose and everything was under really high stress. And what happened was parts of the metal and the wire actually shaved off inside the gearbox and shredded all the air tubing. He was basically just sending like razor shards of metal throughout the entirety of the air tubing.
Wow.
But because it's still under, we'll cut you a deal. We'll replace the solenoids, which are normally $80 a piece. We'll replace the solenoids and all the air tubing, and send you a whole new wiring harness for $106. And I was okay, fine, send it to me. So they put it in and they sent it all to me, and I dropped that into. I initially dropped it into the old Classic Army pot metal receiver that I was talking about earlier, but currently it's in a Madbull Gemtech receiver. But dropped it into a Classic Army shell, and it had a battered to hell Magpul like spray painted tan MOE stock on it, and an APS key mod on the front of it. And I just threw it all together. I just threw all those parts on it, and I used that just fine. And I hooked it up to the air rig. No flash hider or anything. Barrel length didn't match up. Wobbly as all hell. And I threw it all together, and I used that for about 2 months until I put it on my tech bench, and I looked at it, and I said, this looks like crap. And then it was now, and then it looks slightly better. But built the Polar Star from the ground up.
Pretty interesting, actually. I don't usually hear of people who, have issues like that with their Polar Stars and things.
Well, it was only because the guy treated it horrendously.
How did he break it?
The guys at Polar Star said it was really, really frequent taking the air hose out. And, the wiring harness for the FCU, the wiring, like the wire tubing.
Yeah, I know what that is.
That's basically he yanked on that a lot, and it shredded the end. And it sent a lot of those little wire shreds all throughout the gearbox. And somehow he managed to get those into the solenoid air tubing. And so whenever he fired the gun, it would circulate these little shreds of metal throughout the entire thing, just ripping the air tubing and the solenoid's internals to shreds.
Okay, back.
Like, I hooked that thing up to the air tank on my initial test fire, and he said something was wrong with it. Like, he lied his ass off and said, oh, it has a minor leak or something. So I hooked it up to my air tank, and I pulled the trigger, and the air leak was louder than the bang of the gun. And the Polar Star was pretty loud at the time, and the air leak drowned out the actual report of the gun, and so I immediately pulled it all out, and I sent it off to Polar Star, and they were awesome about replacing all of it. But I got it back, and it worked fine, and I just dropped a gold poppet in it a couple months ago, and now it works better than ever.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Well,
Super excited to put the red line on it.
we're talking about
What was
custom
us?
guns?
Yeah.
Okay.
My phone got too hot, so I threw it in the freezer for a bit.
Tried and true. My sister does that every day.
That's what you
It
get.
actually worked pretty well.
That's what you get for using a 6-cell LiPo on your phone.
Yeah, exactly.
There were flames.
Hey, there's a solution for you. Bring a freezer with you, and you can run your 6-cell LiPo.
Just strap it to like a mini fridge on your back. Just stick the 6L on that.
That's how they identify me. I'm the guy with the mini fridge.
Yeah, they call you Fridge. Ice cold.
Because I ice them. Oh.
Better
Ice
yet,
cold killer.
the best
Stop
thing.
now.
You guys have those ice buildings around you that just charge by the bag or like by the pound of ice?
Yep.
Just about every
fill up
supermarket
with the
does.
Sentry turret right there with your 6S and just
I saw a seriously cool thing on the Reddit Airsoft subreddit. Seriously cool thing. I saved it. Let me see if I can put a link in. But it was a guy who got like industrial strength ice packs, and he modified this plate carrier to carry like huge ice packs because he plays in Cali, and he got overheated really easily, and so he just strapped like 2 giant ice packs to himself in his plate carrier. and it kept him really cool, and it was like the most gung-ho situation I have ever seen, but it was actually really well executed. So let me see if I can link that.
You'd be the one guy out there, it'd be 90 degrees and he's shivering.
Exactly, yeah.
I guess
So
what
fish-
we'd have to do, you'd have to bring like a cooler or something.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they're so big. They're like 4 inches thick and like 14 inches by 10 inches. Like they're big,
Holy crap.
industrial strength, like chemical ice packs.
4 inches thick.
They're big.
Good lord.
Okay, 4 may be a bit of an exaggeration. I'm measuring with my fingers. Probably more like 2.5, 3.
That's a huge
That's a little bit
difference.
foolish.
So basically, they're like body armor plates.
Yeah, exactly. They are. That's essentially it.
Somewhere between 0 and 2 feet, there lies the desired
Yeah,
measurement.
I mean,
Yeah.
dimensions were, it doesn't matter. It really.
You did say earlier you weren't that great at measuring, so this is somewhat acceptable and expected.
Exactly. Thank you for remembering that.
So we're talking about custom guns still.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
I guess I'll go next. I had the first Scar H SSR polarized. I wrote up Polar Star and I said, "Could you polarize my gun?" And they said, "Yeah, we can do that." I said, "Well, it's going to need a custom air nozzle length because it's extremely long. I mean, it's something like I think this long. It's long, so."
It's like 2 inches. No, I have the measurements. They're down in the garage though, so I'm not gonna get them. But yeah, I know that's the Scar heavy one because especially if you're using the V2 in the body, yeah, it's like 2 inches. I wanna say.
It's it's the SSR edition though. It's even longer than the Scar H.
Oh, SSR. Never mind.
Yeah, it's
Forget
like
about
it's
Well,
assault sniper. Well,
No, the Scar heavy nozzle. I know when you're using when you have a V like the V2 in a 308 battle rifle, I know those nozzles are like 2 inches long or something
Yeah, they're
ridiculous like
crazy.
that.
Just look
Another
at
reason why
GHGs.
M4 is M4 Master Race.
anyways, talking about the customization, they said they'd do it, and I said, well, you know what, I'd pay extra if you could fix a flaw for me too on the gun. I knew what the flaw was because I would get in and out of that gearbox, and I said I don't like the selector switches because the parts in the inside the screws and everything are so tiny, the threads and everything start going out, and then you can't take it apart, can't put it back together, and I couldn't switch it as well. And the selector plate was this clear plastic crap that they use. I forget what material it's called, but it's so brittle and it would just break and the teeth would shatter. I said, could you please come up with a different design? And they said, yeah, we'll think about that. We'll try to do that. And they actually did. They came up with a very simple design that used both sides of the selectors, and it was a circular instead of teeth. They went with. I asked them to make it in metal. Just go ahead and make the plate in metal, but they went with a different design. It's kind of similar to an M4, the way an M4 switches over, but
Yep.
they're able to do both sides. And then what they did was they made a hole through the fusion engine. They made a hole through it and made an axle-like piece that connected both sides of the selectors.
Are you talking about the Ambi kit?
Ambi kit? What's that?
They make an M4 selector switch Ambi kit.
No, this is. I don't know if it's very similar to that
It's like
one.
55.
Well,
What?
this goes straight through the gearbox, though. The fusion
Yeah.
engine, it would be a hole drilled through your fusion engine, and you'd put it through there. I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know about that kit, but that was the design of it. Anyways, I got the gun back, and it was in great condition, shot well. The only thing was when I would turn over to safety, you could pull it. If you pulled the trigger just tight enough, you could start shooting. And so I took it apart and I modified the trigger so it was a little bit easier on the trigger pull, and then I fixed the safety myself. I added material so that the safety couldn't be pulled. The trigger couldn't be pulled. And after that, it was quite nice.
I gotta say, as an all-around company, Polar Star probably wins my best customer service and friendliest company award.
Yeah, they probably do.
They're pretty solid. They'll actually listen to their community, and I mean they cut me a deal on the solenoids, half price, because even though it was user damaged and not manufacturer defect, because it was still under warranty, they still cut me half price.
Well, their things are very reliable. I was reading about their. I don't know, sure if it was Gen 1s or if they want to say it was. Yeah, maybe it was Gen 1s. I don't really, but whatever. I don't remember for sure. Um, they're talking about like some of the pieces cracking and so forth on metal, and they used a different approach. They would thicken those pieces instead of just like let's figure a different route. Well, let's keep thickening the metal until we can see it become more reliable, and I like that approach. It's
Yeah.
you're not thinking, oh well, let's radius this or let's remove some more material. No, you have to think about let's make a reliable system here.
Not
Rather
just
than
put
the
the
system
baby out
is
with the
going to be
bathwater.
redesigned. Yeah, that's one thing that I noticed. Like on version 2 gearboxes, in a lot of guns that I see, that house version 2 gearboxes, there's plenty of room to add 5, maybe 10% more material on the
Yeah.
walls of the heads. No one does it though.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, why not?
Money.
You have to. I know there's that, but I mean, you just take the existing molds for your version 2 gearbox cells because they're cast, just mill them out just a little bit more, and boom, now you've pretty much solved the whole crackhead issue with version 2s just by adding 10, 15%
I think
more.
to answer
material.
that, I think it's a market. They go, well, we need to get this out there as quick as possible. If we take too much time in research and development and making it better, we're already losing money. We can't get it out to the public and people aren't buying it. I think that's
And
what
really,
a lot of them
sure
think.
there's
to do that wouldn't be your $150 combat machines. That would be like your $400 VFCs and other stuff that
Yeah, but have you seen the
really-
internals on a VFC?
that should be affected.
Well, I'm saying the thing, like a lot of the stuff that
Like as far as doing that on the everyday V2, it's not going to happen.
like JG, D-Boys, AGM, those guns, I'm sure they're cranking out enough gearboxes where it's like, all right, just spend a few bucks to have whatever master mold set you have just enlarged ever so slightly in that one area. And it's like they get it enlarged just a little bit, and it wouldn't, now because of the volume that they're using and the cheap materials that they're using to make the gun, that one factor isn't going to be a huge impact on the price of their guns. Now, if
they're
they're
in question
everything,
there.
if they were doing that for everything, like I know when the discussion comes up, like what could G&G do to make the combat machine better? Replace the gearbox shell, the bushings, the piston head. There's just so much stuff like that where a combat machine wouldn't be as cheap as it is if it gets made to the standards of like a G&G Top Tech. But this is just like one little thing. This isn't like a whole gearbox. This isn't like replacing every single component in a gearbox.
Yeah, I'll say it for JG though. For the price, their internals are the best you're gonna get.
I put a JG Carrot through, I have the notes somewhere, but it was roughly 10 minutes of continuous fire on the stock SEMA MP5 gearbox, non-stop. I mean, I plugged in the battery, taped the trigger down. After about 2 minutes, took a quick temperature, swapped the batteries, plugged it in again. Must have been 30 seconds in between each 2-minute set. And I did for like 10 minutes straight. I mean, that Carrot piston, just phenomenal. It barely has any wear on it. And I'm sitting there, I still have it, and it's like, all right, this is on M120. What's the big deal with these breaking? Just with my one Carrot, I haven't noticed anything significant.
Yeah. I mean, like,
I want to say something, and I know Raven likes him too, or sorry, Bert. But Du Bois, in my opinion, has been the best budget brand for what I've seen teching. I'm actually currently checking
on their
right
CDBM4 out of the box.
What?
My friend put on their CDBM4s and full metal version. I took apart the gearbox. Not only stock was it sounding amazing, I didn't need to do much on this. Actually, better than most Chinese grease. I mean, I was sitting in my room. I leave my windows open all night. It gets down to about 55 here. Woke up, gun was cold. Opened the gearbox. The grease was still fluid at that point, even though it was under 75 degrees. Which
Yeah.
I've opened up with JG 75 degrees in my room. Gun's warm, and the grease is still clumping up. Salt all of it in. D-Boys, the grease fitment was really good. The AOE with the stock cylinder head and piston assembly was perfect.
Yeah.
And
Way by that.
I mean, I currently, right now I'm working on a customer gearbox that's a Du Bois gun. I've got another customer gun back behind me that's another Du Bois gun. I've owned 3. I've worked on a couple others. They are, for the price, quite phenomenal. I mean, their biggest consistent issue is their motor. They have a very weak motor. But their biggest issue in my eyes is inconsistency around the boards. So shimming obviously is going to be off. It's going to be just weird. I've had some Du Bois gearboxes that have really good shimming. I have some that have really bad shimming. And just little things like that. But, parts-wise, like air seals are really good. Wiring is, decent. It's standard. Springs are fine. They're my favorite budget brand.
Really?
My main rifle is built off one of them. So.
The
Very
thing I find about JGs is they're not special. They're not going to get you great accuracy. They're definitely not going to get you great RPS, but they're not going to let you down. Like, they are workhorses.
Yeah.
I've plugged an 11.1 into a stock JGS system.
Yeah.
And admittedly, I could see the wear on the piston after a single game. But like, that thing held up. That thing took the 11.1. I could get a noticeably better trigger response, noticeably better fire rate, and with totally stock wiring and totally stock everything, I was really surprised it even worked as well and as reliably as it did without crapping out on me.
And another thing for Du Bois,
plugging
for me,
11.1s.
Du
You
Bois
go.
Externals, for me, is like it's like one of the main reasons that I like them so much. Pretty much all of their, mid-tier guns, the ones that we're talking about, are all metal. And, I mean, yeah, it's pot metal receivers, but frankly, most of them are pretty damn solid. After 6 years of using a set of receivers, obviously I'm getting some wobble in them now, but it just astounds me that, for a budget brand, they can do this well. But apparently I heard rumors that Du Bois actually isn't in business anymore, and everything on the market is just old stock. That's what I heard, but I don't know if there's any truth to it.
I don't think there's any truth to that. I mean, Du Bois, they've got some pretty solid stuff. I don't think they just drop out and not tell anybody.
Yeah,
Well,
they are good.
Alizard, the member on Airsoft Society, Alizard, I'm pretty sure it is confirmed that he is a member of the Crytek production team.
Nah.
I think
Yeah.
it's part of the Chris team. Yeah.
Yeah, the Chris are the ones who make Crytek. And D-Boys was shut down because he said that it was apparently in China, these airsoft gun manufacturers operate making paintball replicas because of the gun laws. Airsoft gun replicas are illegal there. So they work off of making paintball gun using those licenses. And apparently D-Boys was shut down, and it's just, this is now everything on the market is just old stock that they've had in warehouses. It's still a significant number of guns, but yeah, it wasn't like D-Boys just decided one day to close down. It sounds like they were actually shut down.
Yeah, that's what I heard. And
Right.
Alizard.
Subject on that note, apparently on Facebook the other day it came out that Classic Army is coming out with some new production models.
Yep.
Really? Okay.
I think they were coming out with another Scar SSR or something.
Really?
Yep.
A
So
new
the Scar SSR, they're coming out with one.
That's awesome.
Well, the Star SSR by VFC is already very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe
well,
somebody
here-
also said that they were coming out with a new model of G3s, which would be
Eh.
amazing.
G3s and most European standard issue guns are hit or miss for me.
Yeah, but if you think
a lot
about
of it is
G3s on the
yeah.
market, JGs, so anything metal receiver is better.
I agree with that, but like G3, Tavor, FAMAS, any of those, they just don't really appeal to me.
Yeah.
It's also kind of thinking about like the G3 as a gun platform. That's how I look at a lot of the stuff. Is as a gun platform because I know any airsoft gun can be made to shoot just like any other airsoft gun, with the
Exactly,
exception of like an MP5K or I don't know one of those like SR25s with a version 2.5 gearbox.
Anyway.
And honestly, so like looking at these battle rifles, that's why I run the Scar heavy CQC model because it's like, all right, yeah, I get it looks like the 308, but I save myself a little bit of weight because I'm not going for a DMR build, and I could make a marksman level build, field rifle build with a 8-inch barrel just fine. So when I see like full-on M16s that guys are just running as kind of like a standard, I can hit a man at 150 feet reliably, kind of not quite stock setups. It's kind of like, all right, you're not really gaining much from that, and I see it as you're carrying around this big unwieldy gun that does the exact same thing as an MP5, or a gun that's significantly smaller, lighter, and comfortable to hold.
Yeah, but aesthetically, if you slap
Aesthetically,
it on
yes.
P5 and do DMR mods, it looks retarded.
I'll have to point you to NeoOg. I mean, he did a pretty good job with his DMR
But he did a
MP5.
lot of extensive modification. He didn't just
Although-
use market available parts.
It's also, I'm a fan of Stargate SG-1. I was basically born and raised on that sci-fi show. And there was, I think it was I want to say season 4, episode 7. I know that's wrong though. But there is one scene where there are one or two guys of the Stargate teams rocking like DMR modded MP5s full length with like 12-inch barrels with the 8-inch suppressors on them. The SDs full stocks with the scope, and they looked pretty good. I mean, honestly,
Not using a 9mm platform though. That just
but
makes
this is
no sense.
airsoft though. This is where it's like you can make that in airsoft. You can make it's a version 2 gearbox.
You can make 9mm as accurate as 50 cal if you want to.
Yes.
Yeah, but this goes back to the same thing, and you start to approach a dangerous line where you get those people that like, if it doesn't have a gas tube, I don't want it because it's not realistic. But
Yeah.
I mean, to a certain point, I mean, like I think his name was Badger. Back in the day, he did a 226 DMR build out of a Ronnie conversion kit, and he was hitting 220 feet with that thing. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but that's not realistic at all.
Now,
We're a bunch of dudes dressing up like G.I. Joe, shooting other grown men with little white balls.
yeah, exactly.
How
When you really
realistic
think about
are they?
airsoft as a concept, it's grown men in camo shooting at each other with plastic pellets.
But
Hey,
at the same
you are
time,
wrong. I am not a grown man.
our gun
There.
looks real.
That's going as a highlight. I am not a grown man.
Well, I'm not either, but I still think even the concept is comical. I still love the hell out of the sport, but I think it's comical.
As a sport, I love it. It's a great thing to do to have fun, but I'm not going to get totally into it as like, oh, you can't use an MP5 as a DMR. I'm not one of those guys. It's just like, all right, I
You
can
know
make
what?
this thing. I'll do it.
You know what my view is? You know what my view is?
It's
If
just
you
have
hit
fun.
me at 220 feet, I don't really care what kind of gun you have. You still put the effort in to hit me at 220 feet. Therefore, I'm going to respect that. I really don't care whether it's an upgraded Maruri or a Barrett 50. You put the effort in and you manage to hit me, good for you.
That's kind of my stance. It's like I said before, I may not want to do it, but goddamn, I can respect it.
Yeah.
I would never run a Polar Star. But I think they're cool as hell.
Yeah.
I personally, I try to be as realistic as I possibly can with my gun builds and, with, the gear, the kit that I get. But, frankly, I don't, if you want to run out there in your jeans and build your long-range pistols and crap, more power to you.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And it's like if I wanted to, I'd go like Milsim West, which is what I'm actually preparing to do.
There's
that's
very
what appeals
different
to me, so that's what I'm going to start doing.
different things.
Yeah.
So.
It's like a perfect example of that was I was at a game a couple months ago, and Corey Eskew, Starfolder, he built a AR platform using a carbon fiber outer barrel, rail system, buffer tube, and stock with combat machine receivers, and the entire gun weighed less than 2 pounds with a battery with magazine.
Really?
And he literally threw it at me from 30 feet away, and I was like, crap, I'm going to get hit with this thing, I'm going to drop it, it's going to snap. No, I caught it, and it felt like I was catching, like, a bottle of, like, Gatorade or something. And I was kind of stunned in disbelief, like, there's no way. And looking at the thing, you could barely tell it was an AR just because of all the weird parts he used, but it was still cool as crap, and he could, I mean, it was like you were carrying nothing. And that's kind of the same thing. Like, that's almost in the same realm as making a DMR out of an MP5. Like, you did something crazy and it's cool. Well done. But I'm not going to do it, for sure.
Yeah. You never do it, but you can respect it.
Yeah.
Hey, did anybody else? I was reading somewhere on one of the archives. I love looking at all the old archives for old forums and stuff. A guy did a Scorpion Evo 3 3D printed project.
Oh yeah.
Out of and he put it in MP5 gearbox, modified MP5 gearbox setup. And I was thinking about doing that very exact thing, but I wouldn't know the first thing about the gearbox work because it involved modifying an existing air nozzle to fit. And all that. But if I ever decide to actually get the 3D printer going, and if I manage to find the schematics again, would anybody be interested in helping me modify that gearbox?
I kind of zoned out on that. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
It's kind of a lot of work.
It's a platform we can think about it, really.
Well, he got it to use MP5 mags, which is why I'm thinking it would be sort of an interesting experiment.
Yeah.
Why do you want to switch it over?
An MP5.
What?
Why do you want to switch it over?
Switch it over from what?
From a Scorpion to an MP5.
Oh, no. I'm
To a Scorpion.
yeah, MP5 internals into a 3D printed Scorpion Evo shell.
So he's just changing the internals into it?
He's changing the internals, but he also 3D printed the entirety of the externals. Like custom designed and printed it.
So it ended up being a Scorpion?
Yeah.
But an MP5 on the inside with some adjustments.
Yeah.
Is my mic working now?
Couldn't you just...
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Good lord. People, you don't even understand. Have you seen me jumping in and out of this freaking video call for the past hour and a half? Because that's what I've been doing.
Your mic was working earlier, but we just didn't say anything.
You don't even know.
Did you hear what I said, John?
I did that earlier.
I said
Yeah.
your mic was working earlier, but we didn't want to say anything.
I'm sure. So what it was is the levels were jacked up. For some reason it's receiving my mic is insanely quiet. So everything was working, but no one heard me or could reply to me because my mic level was so low that Hangouts wasn't even picking it up. So But am I coming through pretty clear and a good volume now?
Yep,
Assuming-
you're good.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm just, ticked off and happy at the same time because I have a nice, awesome computer sitting by me that I just spent way too long trying to get a mic to work with.
Hey, you know what? I feel you right there. I just got my new setup a month or so ago, and getting that thing to work was a pain in the arse.
Yeah, it's working now. Well, are we still streaming tech stuff, or can I go off topic for a second?
We haven't been talking much
Yeah,
about
I don't.
text.
Have we
We're always
actually ever been streaming tech stuff?
We've been
Okay.
streaming the whole time. We just haven't been talking about anything.
Well, yeah. Did anybody ever ask permission to go off topic?
I don't think so.
It just happens.
Yeah.
It just let it happen. It goes naturally. It's better that way.
It's an AMD FX 8320, 8-core processor, NVIDIA GeForce 750 Ti graphics card with a 2 terabyte 7200 RPM hard drive.
Man,
and
you
a
weren't kidding.
PSU. It's the graphics card is the bottleneck, but I mean it did up there with low-end i7s as far as performance benchmarks. So
I've
And-
got a Intel 4770K.
yeah,
And-
see that's what I was gonna go with when I built mine.
Yeah,
Nice.
I've also got a GeForce GTX 780 in here, and dual terabyte hard drives, as well as a nice Samsung 256 solid state.
Yeah, I
And-
thought about getting a solid state as well.
The boot time reduction is crazy, but I mainly just use this thing for playing CS:GO and Arma 3, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, guess what I'm about to go download?
Arma 3?
CS:GO.
All I know is that upstairs we have a tiny little gateway that has a problem running Minecraft on low render settings. So,
Oh, the computer that I'm on. Well, wait, no, I'm not on it anymore. I have to remember I plugged the monitor up. The other one, the
The
computer that's sitting beside me, could not run Minecraft because it errored out whenever it tried to load it. So
I just got that little tablet laptop, like awful, like that whatever you want to call it, mutant thing from Major that's got 16 megabytes of video RAM. And you want to talk about low power? I tried to render Minesweeper on that, and I got 17 FPS.
Minesweeper at 17. Dude, I mean, if this was 1981, I would be blazing.
I could own the only game I could find to work at any FPS above 25 was Dwarf Fortress. And
Yeah,
even then,
this
I
is-
tried to create a medium-sized world. It had to think, and it had to process for half an hour.
goodness.
yeah, my pavilion beforehand. Whenever they switched from 7 to the 60 feet per second, 60 frames per second YouTube, it made it to where my pavilion couldn't load YouTube videos because whenever I went to 720, it automatically made it 60 frames. So
That's what
it's like I had to
usually-
watch everything at 480 instead.
It was 60.
480 is not awful.
It's not as good as 720p on a full screen.
Yeah, I'm gonna say full screen 20 something inch monitor.
I
I
don't want to watch
frown down on all you non-4K users now. I'm just joking. I'm not that much of an ass.
Does your
Xbox
monitor
Master
support
Race.
4K?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got
I
a
know there's
sick
so many guys
BenQ.
that it's like, oh, yeah, I watch everything in 4K. Look at their monitor. Only goes up to 1440.
Yeah, I got a sick BenQ here that A renders 4K at 60 FPS, 60 hertz refresh rate with 3D. Guy had no idea what he had. He threw it in for $50.
Read the sentences above. How I can't even read. Like I have literally had this PC running for about 3 hours total, so I don't even have the basic stuff on it. I just got done putting AVG on it. I mean, I already kind of hate Google or Windows 10, but
Oh,
you know,
God.
it's not as bad as Windows 8.
Well, see, here I am with Windows 8, and the only reason I'm not upgrading to Windows 10 is because of the whole Big Brother thing.
Why don't you downgrade?
Well, you can turn off all that stuff.
Ask a question.
Well, that was one of the things is whenever I saw it was Windows 10 and it was being funky, I'm like, I asked if I could give him less for it because I bought it from a guy and he took less for it, so I
Oh,
can
yeah.
either
You're just
deal-
now starting to worry about government surveillance on Windows 10.
Oh, hell no.
Good.
Oh my god, yeah. Enemy of the State came out last week, and I was blown away by it.
I mean,
Okay.
there's so many people that are freaking out about it. It's like, guys, are you clueless? This is not just Windows 10. It's everything.
Okay, hold on. Let's get off this topic, because if I get started on government surveillance and privacy, A, I'm never going to stop, and B, I'm not going to let anyone else talk. So let's get off this topic right now before my...
Okay, I got a question for you, Walter, then.
Alright.
All right, you said it's respectable if I hit you at 220 feet, something like that?
Yep.
With
Regardless of
a
gun.
pistol, like a pistol-looking gun, but it shoots like a a DMR?
Yep.
Okay, well, what if I put a shield in front of it and covers my complete body, and it's a see-through, and it looks like a pistol, and I can shoot it while not taking any fire? Would you still say that's respectable?
At that point, it's no longer about the gun. I mean, you're basically hiding behind a shield at that
Exactly.
point.
I can
that's-
see you, and you can see me, but you can't hit me.
That is being an
Is
asshole at that point.
it, is it respectable then?
There's-
You said it
I
don't
have
matter what
footage.
you're using.
Well,
It's
he's
I mean,
implying
at that
reminding
point,
me
you're
of-
talking about something like that.
Exactly. I'm implying
It's
that
not
the
so
fact that you got your pistol to hit me at 220, that's respectable. Not the fact that you're hiding behind a shield and hitting me at 220.
I have footage from yesterday at the field where, I mean, I'm doing this little. I'm that guy who likes to charge corners occasionally, and I'm doing a dance back and forth between a window. I'm just strafing. I would sprint across, fire a few rounds, and I kept doing that 5 or 6 times. My red dot was on. I'm sure I hit this dude. Like he was down a hall in the building about 30 feet, sticking one arm, his head, and half of his torso out through a door. I'm sure I hit him at least twice because I ran him back. I dumped like 30 rounds down his way. He didn't call anything once. And, I mean, it's shit like that. I mean, at that point, it's no longer like, all right, it's no longer that you got me fair and square with the kill. It's that, and the dude, the reason why I'm pretty sure he wasn't calling hits was because he was sitting on the objective room that we were supposed to get to. If it was any other room, I would assume I was missing. But this was the objective room everyone knew we had to get to.
Therefore, I'm going to park myself here and not call hits.
Therefore, I'm going to park myself, not call hits, and I didn't see him when I first charged in the building.
He had a
so I
shield,
got
man. He had a
halfway in the
shield.
He shot me. So I had to drop our. We had the DeWalt case that had 2 routers and like these computer chips, these big plexiglass things with golden circuitry painted on. We had to get to the router area, plug in the Wi-Fi router, get the chips installed, and we had to hold it from that point till the end of the round.
This is actually
Like,
just Comcast tech support training.
Yes, it is.
They actually train their Comcast operatives to withstand gunfire.
Because that's how all their customers feel after trying to deal with Comcast.
Exactly.
Every customer
Exactly.
response.
They figure if their customer service is bulletproof, then they'll be fine.
Anyway, I get it too. I start putting all the chips in. There's a couple guys in the building with me, and I'm sort of like, oh, this is like that level of Modern Warfare 2. We were trying to steal that dude's computer data with that shitty terabyte hard drive, and it has like a USB 1 connector, and it takes an hour. So plugging in all this shit. And then they have this thing, they got all the neon lights rigged up on the router box, and anyway, get that plugged in, start running around, and my GoPro died just before the last 5 minutes of the match, where, no joke, 5 guys streamed in the room. I was just hiding behind a corner with just my gun, and I just did like, I was shooting .3s, 300 FPS, at 10 feet at them. I didn't feel bad at all.
Alright, I'm gonna have to interrupt you here real quick. I gotta go lift, so if you guys are still on for some weird reason in about an hour and a half, then I'll be back, but
We've been on later. Just
yeah.
now.
So,
Last time I went to bed at 2 a.m. last time, and it's
Yeah.
11 right now. So Raven probably went to bed at what, 4?
if you are though, I still got, 5, 6 batteries left here to switch over to Dean's, so yeah, so I gotta go lift weights.
In about an hour.
I'll see you again. I'll Raven, stay by your phone because I'll text you because I know you'll probably be on.
All right.
Yeah, I had a
Okay.
friend.
I'll talk to you guys later.
All right, later.
All right. See ya.
Later.
I actually went to the field yesterday and had a friend who had bought a gun that was wired to Dean's, and he's like, "You have any batteries wired to Dean's that I can use?" I'm like, well, that would be every single battery that I have. And by the way, do you have any batteries you need me to wire to Dean's? And he said yes. And he came over and saw my giant bag full of Tamiya connectors that I have from cutting them off of stuff. And he's like, "Oh, okay, so you wire a few things to Dean's." And I said, "Yes, actually, yes. Everything, please."
Okay, I'm gonna make a confession right here. Because I am so horrendous at gearboxes.
Oh, you still use Tamiya's?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
No,
Heathen.
I'm
I don't-
awful
okay,
at soldering, and I
Hold
still
on,
use
hold on,
Dean's.
hold on.
Use XT60 connectors. They're 3.5 millimeter bullet connectors. They're really easy. You just shove the wire in there. You just melt some solder on there, and boom, you could just buy any LiPo battery off of Hobby King, and it will just plug right on.
Okay, just hold on. Just hear me out here for a minute.
No,
No, I mean,
I
even if you
refuse to hear you out.
3.5 millimeter bullet connectors are really easy to solder.
My soldering iron is crap.
So get another one.
The 3.5 millimeter bullet connectors and the XT60s have cups. You put the wire in the cup, and you just put enough solder on there to fill the cup, and then you heat shrink the whole thing. It's
I
remarkably
own
simple.
one AEG, and it's a loaner.
All right, just hear him out, guys. I want to hear
It's
him
a
out.
stock JG. I don't exactly need. I don't
Yes,
have
you
an
do. Also need 14
extensive
gauge
battery
wire and solder
collection.
padding.
I have never had a reason to learn how to tech. I'm trying to get into that more now. I'm not a big fan of AEGs. I built up a KCO2 with full RA Tech internals easily because I'm experienced with that kind of platform. But with AEGs, I don't know jack shit, to be perfectly honest.
Just
You have
download
an
Steam.
excuse. You have an excuse now because you have a gun with Tamiya connectors.
Exactly.
Well, here, look. All you need to know is there's plenty on YouTube. Just stay away from the Airsoft Team Kilo 23 guy. Just don't go anywhere near that. And generally
Just avoid him like the plague.
Someone link me to a
Look at
decent
Zach
Yeah,
on videos.
Okay,
Someone
tell
link
me
to a
why.
decent soldering iron, and I'll buy it right now.
Okay, I'll link you to the one I'm using.
Whoa, wait! Before you buy one, tell me why your soldering iron doesn't work for you. Does it not generate enough heat? Is that the problem?
Yeah.
Okay, that's definitely your
What's
problem.
the wattage?
Once you get enough heat, then your soldering iron is no problem. You'll be able to solder Dean's
The tip
connections.
does
No.
not even glow. It takes a good 4 seconds of pressing 10 gauge solder against it for it to even start to melt.
Well, does
What's
it?
the wattage?
Wait, hold on. Are you talking about if you put solder on the tip of your gun? Does it immediately melt?
Oh god, no! 4 or 5 seconds. 10 on a bad day.
So you have to push down with pressure, and it doesn't immediately melt. Then you definitely need to get a new iron.
Exactly, which is what I've been saying.
Yeah, that's what he just said.
I know
That's-
my
that's
tools.
why
I
you-
know
that's
my
why you
tools.
can't-
That's the problem.
That's
Well,
why you can't
the
do
only
the
thing
Dean's.
I can recommend that I've used and I've been using for a while is a Weller. Yeah,
Okay,
I gotta
my
go
other
help
option.
somebody,
Do
so
any of you guys know about
finish
Triton?
instruments.
Triton?
Triton.
It sounds like
I-
I've heard that before.
It's like a really big industrial. Okay, that's my other option because my girlfriend's dad owns the company,
Oh snap!
so I can get like a serious discount on like industrial grade soldering equipment. Not that I need industrial grade soldering equipment.
Again, you got one gun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So-
just go with the cheap
But it has-
soldering iron.
Well,
Exactly.
and even if you didn't want to go with the cheap ones, you can find them anywhere. It's the Weller line. I've got one.
Yeah, the
It was
Wellers
like-
are great.
The Wellers are great, and mine it's the quick heat one. It's like ready
You want to
to
know
go
what
in
soldering?
30
You want to know what company makes mine? Want to know what company makes mine?
Aquaman.
POS
Weller.
company. Weller.
Weller.
Oh
Well,
snap!
is it not working properly?
I bought it new in box, and I plugged it in, and I tried to use it, and it didn't work.
What's the wattage?
I
When
have
it-
no idea.
Honestly, I have one 25 watts. I was going to get the 50 watt. I got the 25 instead. Don't know why, but even the 25 watt one that I have still works just fine. Also, look in getting a chisel, one of the big flat chisel tips.
I was thinking about a chisel tip.
Because the chisel tips transfer heat faster.
Yeah.
I mean, even
But-
the quick heat one is 18 watts, and it starts to struggle to solder anything above really like 14 gauge, but it's more than enough for your 16 everyday stuff.
Do you have a link to your soldering iron?
Mine?
Yeah, I want to see what
Uh,
it is.
All right,
that's
I'm gonna try
possible.
and find one. But let me tell you, I bought it on a whim at Home Depot for $10.
You overspent.
Okay, I don't remember how much I bought mine for.
I got
Probably
mine for $12 at the local Ace, and it was. And I sat there trying to decide between the difference between the $12 25 watt or the $15 50 watt. No, $16 50 watt. And money talks, so I went cheap.
Okay, I'm back.
It's also possible that the tip somehow is not properly heating. I've seen that before.
Getting a new tip can make your soldering gun like a new soldering gun. I mean, that's pretty much.
Well, you're
the
supposed to
core of
clean the tip
tool.
all the time too as you use it. If it's somehow got really bad, it's not heating properly then.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
you
think
have to
mine's
melt
just
jack
a
and
I
Weller.
mean, that'll happen naturally over time, but if you don't clean it, it happens like insanely fast. That's your problem. You need to, go out and if you still have a Radio Shack in your area, it's very unlikely, but
Yep,
you still
I
have a
do.
Radio Shack, then go get brass. Why can I not think of what it's called?
Brasso.
No, not brass. Not brass. It's a brass brush. It's basically a little bowl of shiny
It's like steel wool, but it's
Yeah,
brass.
steel wool, but it's brass, and you use that to clean the tip after you put any solder on it. And that's
Huh.
pretty much how you save your tips. And the gun I use is a WLC 100 Weller, and it's actually got a small station that plugs into the wall, and then a soldering iron that comes off of that, and it's got adjustable power as well. And that one has never failed me. But I also got
Well,
it
I
at
just
garage
sent you
sale for
guys a link to
$5.
mine. It's just 25 watt standard duty.
Yeah, that Weller is a 40 watt. So
What?
the Weller is a 40 watt, the one I'm using.
Oh, okay. This one's 25 watt.
Yeah, that should be more than adequate.
Then it's a manufacturing defect.
I mean, the other thing is that this might not be the best thing to do, but even if I'm like putting Deans on a battery,
Mhm.
that's 4 contacts with solder. I mean, that's to tin both wires, stick them on the Deans, and 6 if you're tinning the Deans. But I mean, after that, I'll just stick down like a quad folded paper towel on the bench and just rub the thing down on all sides real quick, and it just cleans the tip off. And you just do that consistently, and you don't get it all gummed up. And I've kept mine clean for months doing that.
But there will be a point in time after enough use that you'll need to get a new tip. But
Well, yeah.
really,
but, I mean, you
it's
do-
going to be a lot of use.
Yeah.
It's like
it's gonna be
$5
lot
for a
of it.
2-pack, and if you
Yeah.
and if you take care of them, unlike what I did with my first couple tips, they should last quite a bit.
God, I'm sorting through my old.
And you don't let them sit for hours hot.
Well, yeah.
Guilty
Duh.
as charged. I left mine on one day, went to work. I got up at like 6 a.m., did some quick wiring, closed the gearbox, realized I had to rush to get to work. Did, I think it was an 8-hour day.
You're
Came back
incredibly
home.
lucky your house was still there, my friend.
No, I have a freestanding solder holder, and that's separated several
Okay.
inches from anything flammable.
All right, well that's good.
I came back and I realized the lights on the Weller were still on, and I'm like, oh, left it on, and now the like heat element shaft is blued with a little bit of brown color on it, and I'm sitting there thinking, that didn't go well. I thought
Yeah, I mean, mine's about at the point where I need to replace it. And unfortunately, you guys just said it's $5 for a 2-pack. Well, for one tip for the Weller, it's $20. So,
Damn.
and the
Yeah,
last time I
sorry.
bought one I
Well,
accidentally
just buy a new
bought.
iron. Sounds like.
I'm not talking about the regular, this little handheld one, Weller. You're actually talking about like the soldering gun.
That's what I use right there. That's mine.
Well, no,
This
it's
one?
not the Weller I'm talking about. I already said the model of it. It's WLC 100, but it's basically a base that plugs into the wall and it has enough space for all the electronics to build up or to have enough wattage to get really hot. But then another cord comes out from the base and has just a little iron, and that's where the power goes to. So it's kind of a similar situation of like having an amplifier in between wall and a speaker or something. You don't have to deal with having a big bulky gun, but you still get the heat.
God, I'm sorting through my bin of old sharpening stones trying to find a fine grain one. This is a pain in the arse.
Yeah, I mean, yours.
Saying arts a lot.
I say arse a lot?
Yes. It's just, I don't know. It's
Okay.
just something I've noticed that I can't stop. I can't unnotice it. It's just every time you say it, it's just like he said it.
People say I sound very British, even though I'm like 90% German.
And mostly German as well.
So I can't really tell what you sound like.
Das German.
My friend showed me a great group of YouTube videos where someone took a bunch of words, what it sounded like in a bunch of different languages, and they always finished up with German. It's hilarious.
Have you guys heard the Schmetterling joke?
No.
Okay, so a French guy, an Italian guy, no, an English guy, a French guy, and a German guy are sitting around in a garden talking. And a butterfly flies past. And the English guy says to the French guy and the German guy, "Look at that beautiful creature. It's a butterfly. I mean, the word just sounds so beautiful. Butterfly." And the French guy says, "Oh, that is nothing. I mean, in France we say les papillons. I mean, les papillons, the word just flows off your tongue. It sounds so very fluent." And the English guy and the French guy are talking about how wonderful their languages are and how elegant. And the German sits there for a second fuming and says, "Butterfly? Papillon? And what is wrong with Schmetterling?"
What's great about the YouTube videos my friend showed me is that the German guy, he's sitting there, he has this disgruntled face, and he's holding a big liter of beer, saying everything angrily, which goes to the French, and it's the English guy with the mustache, saying it with the thick accent, the French guy doing the very artistic, the Brazilian guy, the Mexican guy, and then German.
Actually, the prices on these tips have gone down. They're only around $10 now. That's not bad.
Oh, that's pretty good, actually.
The problem is I bought the pinpoint tip when I should have bought a chisel tip. So, I mean, it still gets hot enough to do it, but your chisel tip is really what you're going to be using in most of Airsoft stuff. So, unless you're making MOSFETs.
So I was experimenting.
Chisel tips.
I've actually found a way to avoid having to wire things, which is, I
don't
mean,
have guns that use
no,
wires
just
and
don't
batteries?
use AEGs.
Yeah, that's what I said. Don't have guns that use wires or batteries.
But even then, my Polar Star, I still need something for the FCU.
So one of the guys, Patriot 76.
Yeah.
I was with him yesterday. He got his the primary regulator that he has. He has like a primary and a low pressure on his air tank for his Polar Star.
Mm-hmm.
He lost the little cap that activates it.
Oh.
And he ran half the day before he found it in his pocket. And it was
What did he find in his pocket? I couldn't hear that part.
so the way his thing was set up, there was the tank, then there was like the primary air release regulator, and then a low pressure regulator. For the primary one, it had the screw-on cap, that would adjust how much airflow there was from the air tank, and he lost that cap because he had to take the whole thing off when he went to get the tank filled that morning. So he goes about half the day, and it was just before lunch. He's finally looking through all of his pockets, unloading his gear before lunch, and then he finds it. And the whole morning he was running with just his pistol and 2 magazines.
Well, the downside of having a scuba tank is I go to get it filled, and I lug it back to my car, and I'm standing there on my porch ready to shoot my Polar Star for plinking. And I go down to fill up my air tank, and I look at the pressure regulator on my scuba, and it says, 4,500 PSI. And I'm thinking to myself as I fill my air tank, oh my god, the slightest thing could level my house at this point. If I knock on this the wrong way, it's going to blow up in my face.
No, you're just going to have the nozzle shoot out at 5,000 miles an hour and punch
Exactly.
Oh, Counter-Strike Global Offensive.
I'll plug it in.
The adjustment, the valve that you screw, when you're working with high-pressure gases, they teach you don't put your hand over it.
Well,
Always.
Shit, it'll punch a hole in your hand.
Yeah, so if it blows up, the first thing that's going to fail in that valve is any of the adjustment points on the valve. You're going to fail first, then the valve connected to the tank itself, and then the... But yeah, you're going to have the valve fly off and the tank's going to jet out.
Exactly. So I'd never filled a scuba tank before, so I get it filled, and I'm trying to figure out how to do it. And so I look up a tutorial, and I figure it all out. And I plug my my little Ninja carbon fiber into it, and I let go of the valve, and I had forgotten to close the emergency release thing, and so I just hear this huge jet of air, and it sprays out all around my stuff, and I quickly turn it off, and I'm like, now I'm paranoid. So I take off my Ninja tank, and I plug it back in, and I find the emergency release thing, and I shut it off, and I fill up my tank, and I can feel the tank shaking in my hand as I can see the PSI going up, and I'm terrified, and finally I'm done, and so I close the tank, and I try and take it off. I can't get it off. And I'm pulling on it, and I'm trying to get it off, and finally I think to myself, okay, something's not right. So I look around, and I didn't know that you had to release the air pressure to pull it off.
Yeah, that's
so I'm just hold on. So I'm pulling on it, and I finally think, well, what if I turn this knob? So I turn the emergency release thing, and from me pulling on it, it had slightly unseated my Ninja tank in the valve.
Oh,
and
no.
so I had closed the main air tank, but there was this huge pressure built up in the regulator. And so when I switch off the emergency release valve, there's just this crack of air shooting out of the regulator. And it wasn't even a huge amount of air, but it made such a loud noise. It sounded like a gunshot. So it makes such a sound noise. And I jump back, and I trip over my gun bag on the ground. And I fall flat on my back. And I'm just lying there. And, okay, I'm just going to lie here for a second. Everything's fine. And then I just start to hear this slow hiss coming from the scuba tank because I didn't close it all the way. And I hear this slow hiss, and it starts getting louder. And I'm lying there on the ground, shitting myself. I don't want to get up. My back hurts. It's just getting louder and louder. And finally, I just think, what if this is just a timer? What if the louder it's getting, it's the faster the beeping on the bomb? So I am so scared shitless by this point. My back hurts. My tank is on the ground. I pulled out my air hose. So I finally turned the thing off, and I lug it into my room, and I lost 3/4 of my scuba tank fill. Just screwing up time and time again. It's the most terrifying experience of my life. Was just that gunshot crack of the air pressure being released. Literally stumbled backward, tripped over my gun bag, fell flat on my back. Not a pleasant experience.
Yeah, sounds terrible.
My first experience. I went back the next day, and like the lady at the dive station, like looked at me and she said, "Weren't you just here yesterday getting this filled? What did you do that used up so much air?" I don't want to talk about it. Just fill the air tank. Okay. All right. Fine. I'm not going to go into detail. I'm not gonna tell you how I fell over my gun back. I fell flat on my back. Ugh. And of course, the first time I go to fill it, it's at a dive shop, and there's like this really gruff, gnarly fisherman working desk. And I take it in.
I just wasn't expecting that.
I take it in, and he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna need the evaluation, and he looks it over. Okay, it's been hydro tested. All right, registration appears to be in order. Well, okay, I'll just need to see your dive license before I fill it up. I'm like, oh, but I don't have a dive license. I won't fill it without a dive license. But I don't have a dive. I'm not using it for diving. I'm using it as like a propulsion system for like a paintball gun. Didn't want to explain to him what airsoft. No, I'm not going to fill it up without your damn dive license. Just please. I've got like the receipts to prove it. You can look up videos of this. I'm being on. And finally, the owner of the shop walks out, and it's like this. I don't want to sound stereotypical here, but it is like the nerd stereotype. He's like super tall, he's scrawny, he's got horn-rimmed glasses. He's like the last guy I would expect to be running a dive shop. And he walks in from the back room, and he like elbows the fisherman dude. I said, "What do you want?" Like, "I just need to get this tank filled." "Is everything in?" "Yeah." Just takes it, fills the tank, walk out of there. I can hear the fisherman getting scolded by this incredibly scrawny kid. I can hear him getting scolded as I walk. "Why didn't you do that? He obviously didn't. He's only like 14. What are you..." I'm sorry. I got so off topic there. I didn't let anybody else talk. That was rude and impolite, and I apologize.
What was the topic?
I have no idea.
We're talking about filling air out of... I don't know. I'm still trying to get the selector switch.
The
on
topic
PDW to
is
like
about
semi-auto
explosive assault rifle weaponry. We had a 6-cell, and then we had a scuba tank.
Exactly. Oh, hey, I wonder if I could get my FCU to run on a 6-cell.
Before I jump out of this party,
Don't do that. You will blow your
Oh, yeah.
thing
Oh,
up.
I know. I was making a joke, but I thought it would be funny.
Hey, didn't
Cell
someone
power.
didn't someone here say they just got a computer, right? It's Wingman,
Yep.
right?
That would be me.
Hey,
That's
do you have a Steam account yet? Yes, no.
Yes. Yes. Save the game. 14. I got a new computer.
Okay, save the game. 14.
What the hell is this?
Am I
Selector
at-
supposed to come out. I can't find a win.
Add friend.
It's gotta be in semi-auto. That figures.
14. Naka,
What?
weren't you the one selling that,
Tanaka? I was
yeah,
indeed.
I'm trying to think. The M700, that's what it's called, right?
Yep.
M700?
Yeah.
You do a lot of stuff in the classifieds, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm mostly classified and not much actual forum.
I have to stop looking at the classifieds everywhere, so I'll stop buying stuff. Yeah, I've spent too much money recently.
At this point. I mean,
What?
Filter out the classifieds post from the timeline, though.
Okay, I sent you a friend request on Steam.
Awesome. Extreme Gaming.
The only thing I have right now is Counter-Strike because it's downloading.
That's pathetic. I'm just joking. Not really.
Counter-Strike is all I need.
Let's see your profile. Steam. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I haven't even put a profile picture on it.
There is nothing here. There
I
is
look like
nothing.
a hacker.
You have one badge, and it is one-stop shop or one game owned.
Oh, do they have like trophies and junk? Yeah.
Yes.
just I don't know how their whole Steam system works on ratings and stuff because I've never figured it out.
Never.
Like,
I'm
As
I'm
far
a
as I
level
know,
30.
You have to like heat up coal in a furnace and then just purge the water onto it. I mean, I don't know the technicalities, but that's what I always figured.
We found the chemist.
Well, I'm saying that my game, my Steam score, it's when it used to be up there back when I would play like 3 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
It was up there pretty high. It was like out of all my friends, I had the highest Steam score, mostly
Isn't
because
that a satisfying feeling?
I'm homeschooled with a
Mhm.
part-time job. So there are times where I have a solid week of just sitting on my ass, barely doing anything.
I'm going off to boarding school in 3 weeks. You lucky shit.
Well, I'm also 19. I'm kind of done with schooling, and now I just need to get a job.
Yeah.
So those times of sitting around will be coming to an end. I'll just have to shoot grown men with BBs while playing G.I. Joe.
Nothing wrong with
Are
that.
you are you going straight into the workforce, or are you going into school for anything?
At most, it would be junior college because I don't know what degree I'm going to go for. Not sure what field I want to specialize in. So until I do, I'm not going to go for anything super specific in college. Maybe,
Or anything super expensive?
yeah, just junior college, probably get something in business or law. Just because I know growing up near a corporate family, it's just if you get business degree, specifically something in law, that really helps you.
Yeah.
If you're going for a higher level job, being able to understand legislature,
I'm going
hell,
into
even-
tech.
it's just
I'm going into tech.
Oh.
But
that's my current job right now, doing tech stuff. My parents' friends who own the bakery, they use iPads for self-order kiosks in the stores.
okay, that's not. Yeah.
We'll update on all of them. So I got to go into the stores, pull the iPads, plug them into a computer, run the update. Apple just released a new iOS update, like 8.3.4 or something.
Because
All of
Apple
our-
sucks like that.
Programs are only set up for 8.3.1. So
Because
Thursday,
Apple sucks like that.
I had to spend 3 hours on site in one of the stores downloading all the old iOS firmware patches and whatnot, just so that because it has to be restored through iTunes, and then the profile is adjusted. But going through iTunes, it was doing the new stuff, so our profiles weren't compatible, and I spent 3 hours just to get 3 iPads restored,
Yeah.
factory restored type stuff, and it was
You know
like.
what? That sounds like Apple.
It's just everything went. I was getting so good at doing it. It just there were days where I didn't have a hiccup at all,
Mm-hmm.
and then this happened. And tomorrow when I go back out, it's guaranteed to happen again. There's going to be something wrong that's going to just stop me in my tracks.
Yeah.
Because normally I could get 4 iPads. Like I could be in and out of a store that has 4 iPads in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Hour flat. Boom, I'm in and out. Everything's updated. Everything's ready to go. But then there are times where 3 hours just to get 3 iPads. It was terrible. Those are times where I really hate, like, I'm not going into tech at all.
Yeah.
I'm sitting on the phone with the tech guys who know this, and they're just, they do the same thing, like, well, have you tried this? Open this file.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, they did do an update. Oh, here's the link. Download all of these.
Yeah. Okay, guys. I need your help.
You're going to rewire from Tamiya to Dean's? Have we
Yeah.
converted?
Keep on wishing. No.
What do you want help with?
I have been trying to find a Redline air stock used for forever. Forever.
There we go. Now I have a profile picture on Steam.
Perfect. If anybody finds one, brilliant. Austin Powers, really?
Hey man, I've had it for years. Yeah,
That
baby,
is
yeah.
his form. That is his
Yeah.
form avatar, and it is amazing.
Hey, it's better than 5-year-old Home Alone.
Shut up. Shut up.
Yeah, baby, yeah.
Was it sad that the only thing that I could think of when Bruce Jenner completed his gender transition was that's not a woman, that's not a woman, that's a man, baby. All I can think was that opening scene of Austin Powers.
Oh my god.
The funny thing is, I haven't even watched an Austin Powers movies all the way through.
Oh.
I always
Oh my!
watch like parts and
Yeah, that's
sections of them.
You have to watch. Look up what I think it's called watchfree.t. No, it's. Jeez, they just changed their website name. It's
That
like
sounds illegal on so
I mean,
many levels.
like, I have Netflix,
like-
and Hulu and stuff.
I
too,
do all my
right?
stuff to bootleg sites. That's how I watch all my movies.
That
I hope
sounds
you use-
illegal on so many levels.
Dude, the website lets you post Facebook comments on the website page that also shows it in the profile pic. If they were going to get shut down, they would have been shut down by now.
Okay, I'm one who frequents hacking websites for fun, and I'm one who does that for fun. But the pirating of the movies, not.
Keep in mind, I watch movies that are at least 5 or 6 years old that are well beyond their actual profit cycle. Like
Yeah.
as soon as it comes out on DVD, that's like the last 10% of the money they're trying to make off of the movie.
Yeah.
Because the biggest moneymaker is box office. That's like 92. I've read a statistic where it's like that's on average that's about 92% of, or it's just about 90%, 89, 92% of all the money that a movie makes is done by the time it closes at the box office.
Yeah.
So after that, everything else is just little bits of merchandise and DVDs and maybe a special edition that comes out, maybe. So I don't feel that bad when I watch Austin Powers, which was 1996, and I watch it for pirated off the internet. Because, I mean, it's not like they're losing business
Yeah.
because they've already made their money-making cycle on that.
Alright, I can see where
But
that's
definitely-
okay.
If it's a new movie, if it's something that's been out within the last... If it's something that's still in theaters,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to watch it, I'll just go to the movie theater. There's a town like 10 minutes away, Blackhawk. They have a Centuries theater there, reclining leather seats.
Those
dedicated
places are
seats.
so stinking cool.
You go up. You could show up there half an hour early, just get your ticket and get your seat. They dedicate seats.
Mhm.
So you could pick your seat, get it, walk over, sneak in your snack foods, and then you have your seat secured.
Yeah.
And I'll sit there in the leather reclining sofa. The tickets are only $7.50, and I'll sit there. I'll watch my Marvel movie, and then I'll go home.
Those things, you almost got to buy 2 tickets so you can come back and catch all this stuff when you fell asleep the first time. Because those things are so
Well,
comfortable.
So it would be like we were watching Mad Max. The first time we went there, we were watching Mad Max since they did the renovation at, because it used to be the one near us. They used to have regular seats, and then they did a renovation, and we go there and it's like, oh, reclining seat. So we spend the entire trailer portion just dicking with each other, trying to get the recliners fucked up. Which is one of us would get comfortable, the other one would reach over and start smacking the recliner control. That's what we did throughout the entire trailer sequence.
Alrighty, guys. Any idea when this is going to be going until?
We just go until people drop out. I mean, there have been
Okay.
times where me and Milsim have been on like 2 hours after everyone else has dropped off.
Okay, well, I'll probably
I
be
normally
back in
stick
about
around
half
pretty
an hour.
late, so
I'll probably be
I'm-
back in about half an hour. The girlfriend is calling and wants to FaceTime. So, I'm
Make it
not
2
going
hours.
to...
You can hang out with a girl over a bunch of dudes from the internet.
I tried to get her to join the stream. It's not my fault.
Well, you're doing better. I have a friend who, I mean, this girl put a note on his car saying how he's cute, and here's my number, my email, and my Facebook name.
That screams crazy right there.
No. Very nice girl. Very nice girl. But he chooses to spend time with me and his guy friends over her. That is the crazy part. And we bust his chops about it, and we're like, do you have something to tell us? Do you have to come out and say something to us? Are you friends?
Alright, well,
He's like
I
this
really-
born-again
I
Christian.
really do have to go talk with her because she does
Alright.
not like the idea of me going to a co-ed boarding school. So, yeah.
So make that 30-minute break like a 2-hour break.
Oh no. She's gonna get upset and she's gonna start crying and she's gonna hang up on me in about 20 minutes. Is my bet.
All right, we'll time it.
Okay, I'll be back.
1:05. You better be back.
Alrighty.
It's 9:45 p.m. for me.
Yep.
It's on.
The significant
Alright.
time difference.
Okay, so you guys were saying something about don't watch his tech videos. I forgot that guy's name.
Airsoft Team
Airsoft
Kilo
Team
2
Kilo
3.
1.
Okay, now why did you say that?
Because he's been around and he's been Airsplat's resident tech for years.
I knew
And
that
he
part,
does-
but like,
He's
is
just-
also
There's
He
some
did a
stuff
video.
that he's honestly not that bad about, but it's just so much misinformation, and he presents
He did
it
a
in a
video.
terrible way.
of he took one of those Barrett 50 cal version 2 gearbox AEGs, dropped in an M150, a flat hop bucking, and did basic air seal mods, and called it a sniper. Took it out to 200 feet. I mean, he couldn't hit a man past 250 feet, and he was still saying how it was a sniper. And it was like, no,
And
it's
the
not.
guy
No,
has
it's
never
not.
even messed with DSGs. Like, he's never
he
done
put-
anything that crazy. He's still in the world of high torque gears and all the the weird motors that nobody uses anymore. It's like he's stuck in 5 years ago.
I think I remember that.
I
He
wanna
said
say-
he wanted to keep doing high torque sets. If I
Like,
I
remember
want to
he's
say
that.
he
still-
also
He's still using like 27 to 1s or whatever for his quote DMR builds.
He also uses like 455 and 509 millimeter barrels when he's pushing like 0.45 ammo, and it just seems like, all right, that's not going to be quite volumed properly, and he's still using a version 2 gearbox on DMRs, and his bolt action sniper rifles, he just puts a massive, super heavy spring in it, and that's how he gets range. But it's like all that information that he's throwing around is just like, he is quite literally like stuck 8 years ago in terms of teching and the information he puts out.
And really, the guy is not a bad guy. He's goofy, yes, but I mean, it's just if he would move forward and actually push himself to get into new stuff and then publish that, he wouldn't be as terrible.
But that's not the products Airsplat is selling.
Yeah, but he's not even really the Airsplat guy anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, he
that
kind
is
of
right.
he kind of moved out of that and went independent, and he still puts out videos every once in a while, but they're still just they're the exact same stuff. He got comfortable doing the stuff with Airsplat that he was doing, and he never changed his model for his videos.
Man, I wish we could do some of these top tech challenges like Airsoft GI does. That'd be so freaking sweet.
Oh, yeah.
just
Except I
have
don't
to
like how they
coordinate.
grade. I don't like how they do some of it.
Well, I don't like how they do the thing in the beginning, because literally they just walk around, pick out parts, and somebody else builds the gun for them.
Yeah, I think this should have like an accuracy and a compression and then a rate of fire. Like they have to reach it's random. Like the rate of fire has to be 30 or something. It's not whoever has the highest. They have, like a quest.
Dial it in.
Yeah, they have like
List
a
of
quest to
goals,
see
okay.
who's a better tech at doing something, and then reliability and so forth. But they're really only trying to make money at the same time, so they can't do it like that.
Yeah, there was one video I saw where they there's the Lancer Tactical AK-7. It was the way they did the top tech challenge that they had. One guy went for a higher speed build, and the other guy went for a higher FPS build, and it was like, all right, so they can't even be judged by the same category. And then they did this BS thing where it's like, we're gonna let the viewers decide. All right, so you set up an entire challenge, and you're not even gonna judge it like you said you were. And
They
it
did
was,
the same. Are you talking about the one with the G3s?
No, they did one of them back when the Lancer 74U came out, Lancer
Gotcha.
Tactical, and they were trying to do all the hype for that. Yeah, it's like the guys went
They
through
did that
some.
with the G3s too.
Yeah, and it was
It's like
Just
one
the
guy
way
got
they
the
do them.
railed long, one guy got the standard long, and then the other guy had the little short one. It's like, how are you even going to compare these three?
Yeah, I saw that one as well, and they were all completely different builds. And yeah, it would be better if they had a list of goals and who came closest to get to those goals, because that would
With
really
the same base
show me.
gun.
Yeah, same base gun, and honestly, if it was take it a step further, the same kind of group of parts, like, all right, here's a list of 3 pistons, 3 motors, narrow down the parts to see it's less of who got the luck of the draw and more of who is actually the better tech.
Well, I would actually go the other way. Leave parts completely open, like put no restrictions on parts, because then that lets somebody who's inexperienced pick something that's crappy and rightfully not achieve their goal. When you narrow down parts, that's almost spoon feeding them what they need.
Yeah. Well, but at the same time, though, if you're already listing goals for them to
Yes.
meet, then at that point, any decent tech will look at a goal, and he would already have in his mind, like, all right, I know exactly what needs to be done, which their top tech challenges are done with their staff members, the tech staff members that they have in store. So,
I mean, really, the only way I can see that being valuable is if you put something out there that would be hardly attainable, like achieve, a man-sized grouping at 250 feet without using an R-hop and using a 120 spring. That would be
they could
pushing
run
it.
on a 6L lipo.
Well, yeah, that too, but, reasonable now. Reasonable.
22.6 volts. No, hold on, let me just read off the battery. 22.2 volts is not reasonable?
No, not at all.
I don't even know the voltage off the top of my head. That's how little I've looked at this battery. I just bought it because it said 6L, because I wanted it. I want to say the peak voltage on this is actually like 28.4.
Yeah, full charge, it should be much higher than that.
Yeah. It blew out a chip on my Chinese reproduction IMAX B6 charger.
Nice.
Quite literally
Holy
blew out.
crap, I just found a crazy video.
Mm.
What's it about? Tell us more.
This guy, he's trying to take gearboxes that had gotten stuck, and he made his own pinion gear to a shaft that he puts on his drill, and then he takes the pistol grip off and he puts his drill in there, and it looks like he puts it in reverse order. I'm not really sure from watching the video, but I just thought it was interesting because I would be afraid that would break the gears.
If you got something jammed up, that's the last thing you want to do. Forcibly cycle them. Yep.
Well,
I
kind of agree with that.
I mean, there's some merit to it, but at the same time, yeah, if it's jammed up, it could be because the gears are stripped. The gears are compromised, and if you go reverse like that, hell, if you reverse too much, you're going to start hitting the back of the piston, and that's going to bring everything to a stop. And
from what I can tell, I mean, I just quickly looked. I'm not really sure if it's going backwards. Let me look again.
I mean, if he's going backwards, he's going to have to...
No, wait. Okay, so he has to be...
Because the ARL.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, the drill in reverse would be turning the same way as a motor, correct?
I'm trying to think about it. I always get that mixed up.
I'm trying to remember which way the rotors turn.
If I understand, the motor the motor that he's using is a lot stronger. So if you were moving it backwards, which is moving... Is it moving the piston backwards? I can't remember which direction's which. Or you have to go forward. Anyways, if the piston gets released, wouldn't the air nozzle just go to the front right away? I can't. If I remember, because you're moving the sector gear. As you move the sector gear, wouldn't the piston go to the front right away? I mean, the air nozzle go right to the front? Because when I'm watching the video, it doesn't look like the air nozzle goes to the front right away. It looks like there's a stall. Here, let me get the link. Unjamming airsoft gearboxes made easy.
Well, you get this drill, you see.
Well, I have a better solution than he does, because I've been doing it for so long. You put it in, you put a screwdriver in through the piston, through the air nozzle. You push the piston all the way back, and then you have another tool that pulls the antiversal latch for you, and you slowly bring the screwdriver backwards, and the piston will go all the way to the front without having to pull the ARL and having anything slam, like the gears doing any backwards motion or anything, braking. That's like way better than trying to hook up a drill, I think, than trying to, because you can use any spring. Let me pull up the video for you guys anyways.
If he's hooking up a drill for raw power, why not a 6-cell?
They honestly wouldn't be that far apart. I mean, your average power drill is running on an 18-volt battery pack.
CSGO is at 80% now. If you guys stay in this long enough, I will be playing Counter-Strike by the end of it.
I was downloading The Sims 4 the other day. It was like, I think it was 4 gigs. And I looked at the clock. It took me, I couldn't believe it. It was like 4 minutes and 30 seconds almost. And I downloaded 4.17 gigs. But I have really fast internet though.
I was gonna say I have fast internet, but it depends on what it's going to. See, right now I just have it hooked up to the same thing that our other computer was hooked up to, and it's one of those outlet adapters for your Ethernet cable. It puts it through the power outlets. So it is faster than Wi-Fi, but slower than a hard wire.
I don't like to do that because sometimes the outlets, they don't, like, there's lost data. It depends.
Yeah, so I'm not going to use this
cable
permanently. I'm just using it for the moment because I don't have a Wi-Fi receiver and I don't plan on using Wi-Fi. But on the PS4 where it's hardwired, I can pop in or jump in and have a 3 gig update and have it done in 15 minutes. And some people say it takes them hours to download that much, and I just like, well, that must suck. I've had bad internet before. It wasn't until we finally got this nice router that it was fast, and I will revel in its speed for the time being. But now I need to get a really long Ethernet cable to go from the top floor router down to my room on the bottom floor. And there's also only one hole that can go through. It's the same hole that all the cable stuff goes through. So.
And then there's James strapping bullets to his stoner.
Oh yeah, I think I made a comment there about how there's no way that running over bullets with a lawnmower is going to set them off, or the chances of it happening are so incredibly low that you don't need to worry about it.
Yeah. Oh goodness.
For today's episode, we're going to put this under the why hasn't somebody else thought of that?
Oh gosh. Boy, that intro is real 90s.
Okay, I'm going to say, guys.
Why is this 2007 YouTube posted in 2013?
Okay, guys. I'm going to tell you that I'm going to watch this video so it's in the stream. That way it's recorded. And I probably won't say anything for the next few minutes as it's playing. And I kind of expect you guys to watch it too. Okay?
Is anybody there? I think I lost everybody again.
Can you hear me?
I am. I think we're all watching this video.
Oh, okay. It probably killed their chat then.
Can you hear
Well,
me?
it should say if it killed the chat.
Can you guys hear me?
Again.
Well, it does that for me. I'm on my phone. If I go to Facebook and pass a video, it kills the chat.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Now we can. Yes.
Okay, I was saying I'm gonna watch this video, so it's streaming and recorded for future. So at least if anyone does watch this video, they can see what we were talking about. So I'm gonna not be talking for a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, Bert is muted as well, or well, Raven is muted as well. So yeah, I'm watching the video too, but I'm not muting myself.
And this especially goes out to you guys out there that like to modify your gearboxes and put heavier springs in it in order to try to up your velocity on your airsoft gun. The problem is beyond the obvious fact that it puts more stress on the gearbox and the motor, but beyond that it also takes more power from your battery in order to drive that gearbox all the way through its cycle. The problem is that sooner or later your battery's going to run out of juice and not have enough power to run it all the way through, and most of the time it'll lock back with the piston almost like 99% back, and it just doesn't have enough power to complete it through the cycle. Now the first sign that something's wrong with your gun is you'll be pulling the trigger and nothing's happening with the gun. You might hear a slight buzzing noise coming from the motor, and if it's going on for a long time you may feel the grip start to heat up from the fact that the motor is not able to drive itself through its cycle and cool itself off. If you've ever disassembled an airsoft gun that's having this problem, you notice that you could see the piston through the little window in the back of the gearbox. Normally when you would look at it, you could actually see the springs inside of that little window. But if you could actually see through the gearbox like this clear one, you could see that the piston is stuck back in its rearward position.
It was fun.
Now the solution for this is obviously put a new battery in the gun, pull the trigger and drive it through its cycle and reset the gearbox. The problem is that when you have these modified springs in the gearboxes, there may not be enough power or enough torque in your motor to drive this all the way through its cycle when it's starting in the 99% compressed state like this. So what do you do in that case?
Detent pin. That's what's keeping it in.
Up until recently, the only solution I had for this kind of situation was to disassemble the airsoft gun, remove the gearbox from it, disassemble the gearbox, and then reset all of the gears back into their starting position, reassemble it, and put it all back together. Now that's a pretty complicated way to fix a fairly simple problem. So I kept thinking, this is a pretty common problem that we see a lot. There has to be a better way in order to fix this kind of thing.
When you put the drill in, it's funky.
The solution I came up with was to put a pinion gear on a little shaft with a bearing inside of it so it fits inside of the gearbox, and then all you simply do is put this onto any standard hand drill, and then you can just simply insert it into the gearbox like that and then drive it all the way through its cycle manually without having to disassemble the gun. In order to build one of these, it's pretty simple. All you need is an old burned out motor that still has a good...
It's just doing a full normal cycle. So if I guess if your gearbox is jammed, it's just supposed to pick up where your motor left off.
Okay, I see what he did. If you actually watch the video, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, if you actually watch the video very closely, the gearbox wasn't jammed when he was doing it. He was starting with a gearbox that wasn't jammed. So I was like, why is the air nozzle in its position and stuff? And I couldn't understand at first, but then when I looked closer, oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, that was what I caught on my second watch through.
So my thing is, what if you had a gun that was like an M150 and you try to use his method? I don't know how well that would work, because it isn't the bigger the spring is, it's going to try to bust through right when you put that motor in there, but maybe it just works fine because it's just like putting an airsoft motor in there.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it doesn't look like a bad idea because you can run it a whole lot slower. You know, run the drill in the low setting and just pull it back and let it release. I mean, obviously, it gets more dangerous as you up your springs and up your load on the gears, but I don't see why it would be any different than cycling it with the motor, except for you're having the stress on the teeth for a longer period of time than your standard cycle. First time I've ever booted a game on a PC that isn't. See what happens.
What did Raven say?
Oh, well, using the drill, all I see is that the pinion's going to be slipping a lot.
I thought about that.
I know.
Here it is, Counter-Strike.
It sounds like you're also on a beach and the waves.
Oh gosh, darn it! That's loud. Turn it
He was on
down.
the beach.
Okay, so I can't hear anything. I'm gonna mute myself and try to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I think we should cut the channel because it's getting like it's 10 o'clock now. That's 4 hours. Nobody came in except that one guy. Nobody searched for Airsoft today.
Oh, I should have remembered how loud the menu music was from playing it on the PS3.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the stream off for now. We can still talk or whatever.
Yeah.
All right.